Alrighty, welcome to the 91st edition of Before the Battle. My name is Nick Baldwin of BloodyElbow.com, and joining me, as always, is Jed Meshew of MMAfighting.com and Wes Riddle of MMAsoccer.com. Jed, how are you?
I'm extremely tired, but really pumped to talk to you about the TUF 26 finale, which I did a lot of research about the TUF 26 finale, and I did zero research about the UFC 218. So I'm excited about the first event because I think I'm going to win that one because I put in more prep work than y'all did, and I'm excited about the second event because I'm going to win that one because I'm just better than y'all. So.
Yeah, I'm not so excited for the first one because I don't care about most of it, and the second card, one of the better pay-per-views all year. Wes, what is going on?
Nothing much. We pretty much went from what I thought was the worst card on paper to what is probably now the worst card, besides the title fight, in modern era UFC history. And thank goodness we have a pay-per-view on Saturday night.
That is.
What do you mean? It's up there.
It's not a good card, but like this month we've had a string of some real shit. UFC Shanghai is the worst fight card we've ever had. Like right on up there. But this is right there. Like several of these people are justifiably going to stick around the UFC at least.
I'm just hoping that they can produce at least something entertaining, and there wasn't a whole lot of, well, there was a decent amount of it last week. But
how many? There were like 12 debuting fighters, and like how many fighters did you actually know on the UFC Shanghai card? At the minimum, at the very least, you know who Eric Spicely and Gerald Mushard are. Like, you at least have a concept of that.
I just hope they make it as entertaining. But well, I guess we'll kind of have to see because I don't know. I just don't have a lot of expectations for it, but those are usually the cards that surprise us. So hopefully it'll be okay. But luckily we have, like I was saying, we have the pay-per-view on Saturday, which is ridiculously stacked on paper, name-wise. So I'm really looking forward to that one, which we'll talk about after we talk about some of these early fights.
Yeah, Saturday will be a good night of fights, I think. I don't want to say that too much just because I'm gonna jinx it. It's gonna be terrible cards somehow. I don't know. I don't think it's possible, but knowing my luck, knowing what I, just. Let's all talk with the, don't get too hyped or else, someone's going to get hurt, miss weight, whatever.
Fans of the show, let it be known, I lobbied vehemently for us to talk about the Bellator tomorrow night as well.
I never said no. I never said no.
Yeah, you did. You definitely said no. You were like, no, we're not going to do it. We already got too much shit going on. Yeah, so I wanted to talk about it, and then Nick was like, it's really not that good a card. And I was like, it's not that card. But
I said it was an okay card.
All you big Bellator fans out there, because I know there are many of you, the ones who are pumped to see Julia Budd come lay claim to the title of best women's featherweight on the planet of the earth, then you guys just know I was here for you.
That card's actually on December 30th, but okay.
No, Julia Budd is fighting tomorrow.
And Chris Cyborg is fighting on December 30th.
Yeah, but Chris Cyborg is not the Bellator featherweight. Chris Cyborg won her title by beating a bantamweight. I don't even know who Julia Budd won her title off of, but it's got to be better than that. So
sure, she got it off Marlo Quinlan, who is a lot better.
Then look, we can all admit freely that Chris Cyborg is the best featherweight champion in the world, but I think we know that the real title.
That's what I was looking for. That's what I was looking for.
Well, she's the best, but yeah, the best is frequently not the champion.
Of course, I know.
Like Michael Bisping held the belt for a year.
But didn't you say that the best women's featherweight fights tomorrow?
No, I said the champion. Oh, maybe I did say the best. I don't know. It's late. Whatever. It's late. Anyway, Rafael Lovato Jr. is fighting tomorrow. Hisaki Kato, who's just a delight to watch.
Yeah, Kato versus what's his name?
That's a good fight. That's a great fight. Chris Honeycutt versus Rafael Lovato Jr. is probably going to be boring as shit, but that's like a fight that actually has merit and is better than almost every fight on the TUF card. Probably actually better than every fight on the TUF card. Adam Piccolotti, Dave Rickles, again, better than every fight on the TUF card.
No, but close.
I think there's a case to be made. Sam Cecilia, Marcos Gaval, quality fight. It's a fight. It's a decent. I mean, and then the undercard is a Bellator undercard, so it's absolutely dog shit. But
Still, Bellator undercards don't actually exist there.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they are a mirage. They're a phantom. But I was just saying, I was here for you, Bellator boys and girls.
Yeah, so is Scott
and non-gendered people. But yeah, Scott Coker, I was trying to big you up. But talk to your boy in Canada. I guess since you don't go to Canada enough for cards, he's just bringing the hammer down and being like, nah, fuck a Bellator 180, whatever it is. 9.
When they come to Canada more frequent, we need to start a new show called Before the Bellator.
Nice. I like it. See, that's thinking. That's using the old noodle there.
It is. We have 2 cards to talk about. One, we won't talk about all the fights. We'll give our picks for all the TUF finale fights, but we won't break each and every one down in depth. But 218 deserves all the talking. But before that, let us go through UFC Shanghai from last weekend. We had Kelvin Gastelum knock out Michael Bisping in the round number 1. It was a vicious performance, pretty expected, no big surprises. Ultimately, a good card. No one watched it. I mean, sure, some people did, hardcore fans that have nothing better to do at 4 a.m. I personally prefer sleeping, but I did wake up, caught the last few fights, and they were fun. A number of good finishes, a couple good fights. Fun night of fights, fun morning of fights, but the name value wasn't there. But nonetheless, let us go to Jed. What do you got for us? Results for our picks, for DraftKings, and for our performance bonuses.
We've got a double champion this week, and it is you, my good Nicholas, though I want to be clear, it's a close one. It is a close contest. Not on the pick side. You ran away with the picks game. You went 9-3. You only missed on the Yanan fight, who else? Bobby Nash, which all 3 of us missed on, and the Salikov fight, which I tried to tell you boys that Garcia was going to do the damn thing, and he did do the damn thing. I came in second place. I went 7-5. My misses were Alex Caceres, Bobby Nash, Kalen Curran, Chase Sherman, and Buren. I don't even remember his name off the top of my head. Wes went a respectable 50%, 6-6. Buren, Yanan, Sherman, Nash, Salikov, and Caceres. I think Wes also at the time of the show had picked Xiaonan, had picked Curran, but then changed to Xiaonan behind the scenes. So he should have done better. But then when he did that, he also swapped his original pick of Guan to Caceres, and that didn't work out well. So he evened himself back at 6-6 with those 2 changes. As far as your DraftKings team go, Wesley Riddle bringing up the rear here, 342 points. I had 463 points. And really, I still am trying. I lost for one reason in DraftKings, and I'm gonna get on my soapbox here because it's a bullshit reason. Like, Nick definitely picked better than me, and I'm making no excuses about that. My DraftKings team, I thought at the time was better. It proved to be better. I lost because Zabit Magomed Sharapov put up 152 points as one of, if not the actual best DraftKings performance in the history of the game for a good win and a dominating win. But for that win got more points than Kelvin Gastelum's first round gorgeous knockout of Michael Bisping. It got 50% more points than that because DraftKings so egregiously scores in favor of takedowns. And let's all be honest here. They awarded him 11 takedowns. Sorry. He didn't have 11 takedowns. He really took Shaman Moraes down like 3 or 4 times, but the rest of it, Shaman would just get his butt hit the ground, stand right back up, and then Zabit would drag him back. There's no real control there. He just makes his ass hit the ground, and that jacks up 10 more points for you. So Nick closes out with 479 points to my 463 points, basically by virtue of getting a bunch of extra takedowns, because my team had 3 300-plus performers and a 4th scored 97 points. Chase Sherman put up 2.5 points, which was bad, and, that hurts, except for you had Zach Otto, who also put up 2.5 points. Literally, I lost because freaking Zabit Magomed Sharapov put up 152 points, which is insane, and so I'm offended and think that I should actually be the DK champion of last week, but because of flawed scoring systems, you somehow win.
That is the name of the game in a lot of MMA, scoring.
I'm just saying it's nonsense, and I think we all know who the draft king really is. But
yeah, it's me. It's me. Underdog picks of the week. Do we have that recorded?
Yep.
Oh,
I forgot.
Bonus.
Yep. I forgot. I got those right here. Your bonus winners last week. There were 4 performances. No fight of the night was given. Kelvin Gastelum, Li Jiangling, Zabit Magomed Sharipov, and Yadong, who I don't even remember who Yadong was fighting. All recorded bonuses. So that means all 3 of us missed on our fight of the night predictions. Both I had Sherman Abdurakhimov, Wes had Magomed Sharipov, Shayman Moraes, and Nick, you also had the Magomed Sharipov, Shayman Moraes fight. I managed to spike 1 pick on the performances. Kelvin Gastelum, my other Cyril Asker, despite having a KO win, just didn't get paid off. Submission. Sorry, you're right. Win didn't get paid off. So let's call bullshit on that again. Wesley Riddle, he had Salikov, who lost, and Gastelum, who won. He also spiked a performance bonus. Nick, you as well spiked a performance bonus. Kelvin Gastelum, your other pick, Bobby Nash, who lost. So I kind of want to claim performance bonuses. Since we all got the same one right, my other pick at least won. Both of your other picks lost. And the underdog pick of the week, I did win because my underdog pick of the week was Garcia, who did submit Salikov. Wes had Guan picked, but then changed to pick out Caceres, but he never changed his underdog pick. So he stuck with Guan despite not picking him. So that he didn't win. He won. So I guess there's that. Yeah. So I guess there's that. But I think we could admit that
Wes couldn't have won or lost. It was either underdog or the actual pick.
It's true. It's a way to split the difference. And Nicholas, you had Yanan as your underdog pick. Did not pan out for you. I think I win.
Unfortunate because
I win the performance bonus section.
I was debating between her and the guy that fought Caceres, Guan. So
yeah. I mean, even if you do, I still think I win the bonus section because Garcia was a bigger underdog than Guan. So I'm taking home that award. I got 1 plaque to go on the mantle. That's all our housekeeping. Now we can get to talking about the 24 fights or whatever the hell we got to do today.
Yeah. As I said, so the Ultimate Fighter 26 finale goes down from Las Vegas tomorrow night. We start out on Fight Pass, early prelim, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. We're not going to talk about that fight. There are a number of fights we're not going to talk about. A lot of them are, it's mostly the, fighters from the Ultimate Fighter 26. The undercard is scattered with fighters that didn't make it far in the tournament. I guess, we're probably all of these will be in the flyweight rankings come next week, which is kind of funny, but some of these fights just aren't really worth talking about, considering we would if we didn't have 218 also to cover. I want to give more of our time to that than this card, so let's not waste our time for this card. Let's just go through some of the fights. So we'll go through the fights we're going to preview first, and then we'll sort of go backtrack a little bit and just give our picks for the other ones we skipped over afterwards. So we'll start out with a middleweight fight between Andrew Sanchez El Dirte taking on Canada's own Ryan James at 185 pounds. Jed, you like Sanchez, who's a big favorite, maybe the biggest on the card, one of the biggest for sure, taking on James.
Hold on, I gotta go find my notes. Talk to Wes for a second, sorry.
Wes, Andrew Sanchez, Ryan James.
This is a pretty interesting one. I think it could be pretty entertaining depending on how transition when they're on the ground, but I think at the end, I'm kind of leaning towards Andrew Sanchez. When it comes to kind of who's more offensively sound and looking for takedowns, it definitely goes to Andrew Sanchez. Ryan James really hasn't looked tremendous so far in his UFC career. I think the first fight that he had was the one that came against Gerald Meerschaert, where he got submitted in the first round.
That was his first loss. He did make his debut against Keith Barish and got the win, but he's on 2 fight skid since then.
I don't even really recall the Keith Barish fight, but I guess that was his second career loss. He had lost one earlier on in his career, put up a big streak of victories over in Canada. And then he ended up losing a fight, kind of came back in it against Jack Marshman in the later part of the fight, but that's because Marshman is just a really small fighter and pretty much ran out of cardio. I think Andrew Sanchez hopefully worked on his cardio in the last fight because he definitely slowed down when he was fighting Anthony Smith. But I think Andrew Sanchez is just a little more offensively sound, looking for takedowns. I think if he can get on top and maintain control for most of the fight there in the first and second round, he'll definitely be able to take the victory here. So I'm taking Andrew Sanchez. I've got him by a decision, probably 30-27. But I think a 29-28 is definitely likely if Ron James can possibly get on top.
All right, I got my notes here. Basically, I agree with Wes. He's one of the biggest favorites this weekend, and I think Andrew Sanchez is probably a favorite is a favorite for a reason. To add on what Wes says, there's just a huge gulf in athleticism here. Ryan James is a really tough dude, kind of hangs out there, gets pegged a lot in the head, but keeps on coming. But he gets pegged a lot in the head because he is very, very hittable on his feet. He's a JITS black belt. If he can find ways to get it on the floor where he's in a dominant position, Andrew Sanchez is not very good off his back. But I don't think he can. Andrew Sanchez is a 4-time NAI All-American wrestler, 2-time NAI national champion. These aren't like incredible credentials, but they're good enough. He also has had some success on the international Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu circuit at lower belt levels, both gi and no gi. I think he won a Mundials at like purple belt in no gi. So like even if Ryan James gets him to the floor, he's not going to tap him. He just might be able to stay on top for stretches. And on the feet, Sanchez is just a much, much better athlete, operates at not a higher pace because Ryan James actually does throw a good amount of volume, but just a better, cleaner worker. And I think he's going to take down Ryan James a bunch and run his way to a decision.
Yeah, give me Andrew Sanchez. The odds, in a fight where I'm not so sure Andrew Sanchez is a great fighter, but I think the odds are kind of fair. Like he probably should be closer to maybe minus 300 because James can be tricky. He is he is a good grappler, and this matchup is sort of interesting just because Sanchez is really good on top. He's a wrestler. He likes the takedowns. I think he has a slight striking advantage, although he's not great, but I think he's getting better. James is okay on the feet, but he doesn't have too much advantage power.
Purely because James is so hittable.
Yeah, James is very hittable. His techniques is okay. He's getting better, but he just doesn't have the power. He doesn't have a single TKO or knockout win on his professional record. All have been mostly by submission, and then I think 1 or 2 decisions mixed in there. I think this will be, pretty straightforward fight, though. Sanchez, I think, will get on top. I'm not so sure James is able to do much from bottom, and I think Sanchez grinds this one out. I don't think it's a great fight when it's all said and done, but I do think Sanchez picks up a rather dominant victory here. Give me Sanchez by unanimous decision. Moving on to the bantamweight division, it is kicking off the FS1 main card at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Joe Soto taking on Brad the Pikey Johns. This is a really fun fight. Could end up being the fight of the night, perhaps. We will, of course, predict that later on. Jed, Soto, or Johns?
This is a pretty close fight, and I'm taking Brett Johns here, but it's one of a couple fights on the card that I'm really, really uncertain about. We're going to talk about the other ones in a second here, because Joe Soto is a weird dude, and he has a type of game that could maybe give a developing fighter like Johns a serious amount of problems. By that, mainly, I mean Joe Soto has a really good guillotine and is actually very tricky off his back. And Brett Johns relies heavily on forward pressure and his takedown game. He's a good wrestler. He's going to be able to score takedowns on Joe Soto, who's not a fantastic defensive wrestler. And Brett Johns is a good one. He's got a variety of finishes to operate behind. But what Joe Soto makes up for is the fact that he is quickly threatening as soon as somebody takes him down. And so who was Soto's last fight against? Because let me pull this shit up.
Honey Yaya, I want to say.
Yeah, exactly. The Honey Yaya is one of the things fight that gives me some concern here because Brett Johns is a little bit better of a wrestler than Honey Yaya. But Joe Soto was able to mostly negate, but Honey Yaya is a much better grappler than Brett Johns is. And Soto was able to negate most of Yaya's effective takedown work by immediately threatening with his guillotine and just forcing scrambles that he then came ahead on. Now, Brett Johns is going to be better than that, and Honey Yaya gasses really hard, and he gassed very hard there. But the last 3 fights we've seen Soto probably beat Michinori Tanaka. He got knocked out very quickly by Anthony Burchak. That's not offense that Brett Johns is going to bring here. And he gave TJ Dillashaw a decent fight considering the fact he fought him on 24 hours notice. And then since then, he choked out Chris Beal in a fight he was maybe behind in. It was a close fight up until that point. He just leg locked Marco Antonio Beltran, and then the Yaya fight. And so it's just kind of the dynamism of his grappling game that gives me concern here, because Brett Johns has been kind of caught before sleeping or just not having quite the technical acumen there yet. It's a developing part of his game, but he's never been finished because obviously he's an undefeated fighter. But we've seen him get swept. We've seen him get put in not as good positions as he would like to. And against Joe Soto, he's going to be able to take more advantage of that. And on the feet, I think Joe Soto is a bit better of a striker, but Brett Johns has much more offense, and Joe Soto is content to kind of let the fight come to him a little too much. And that's why I'm going to pick Brett Johns here. Is basically the initiative. He's younger, and I think he wants it a little more. But I'm really interested to see how the guillotine of Joe Soto kind of works as an equalizer in a fight that otherwise should favor Brett Johns pretty heavily.
I think the word initiative, like you said, is one thing I've been leaning towards in favor for Brett Johns in this case. And it's pretty similar to kind of what Andrew Sanchez does, and that's kind of offensively sound with his wrestling game. Except I feel like Brett Johns is just a little bit more active in trying to look for those takedowns and be able to get them down to the ground. Sometimes doesn't really have the best control, but then again, he's able to utilize his very aggressive power and be able to pull his opponents right back down once they get back up to their feet. Very relentless in the clinch positions. Joe Soto could maybe do something with that. He has pretty decent takedown defense, not the best in the world, but he's able to avoid a lot of the takedowns that his opponents try to throw on him. But I think that Brett Johns is just going to be a lot of muscle in this fight. Maybe be the kind of the fader late in the fight. I think Joe Soto might be able to take that last round and maybe do it with the striking abilities, because Brett Johns, I think in the Kwan Ho Kwok fight, there was a moment where Kwan had a little bit of success with the strikes, but it wasn't anything too significant. I do think that Joe Soto is a much better fighter than Kwan Ho Kwok. So maybe he'll be able to do something in that last round, but I think that Brett Johns is going to be able to have the better advantage there with his cardio, but also just his aggressive style. He's a guy that continuously looks for those takedowns, and I'm not sure if Joe Soto is going to be able to stop too many there in the opening round. So I'm going to take Brett Johns. 29-28 decision. I think Joe Soto takes the last one, but I think Brett Johns will be able to get it done in a pretty close and entertaining fight.
Yeah, this is, as you both talked about, a close fight, a fun fight, and as I said off the top, could end up being one of the better fights of the night. Joe Soto, his grappling game is really good. He's good with the guillotine. He's just really dynamic on the mat. His scrambles are really good. Super talented on the mat. His striking is good. He gets off his punch pretty well. He's rather technical. He doesn't hit the hardest, but he does put his strikes together quite well. Brett Johns, though, I think he's quite a bit more athletic than Joe Soto. He's undefeated. He has that confidence, and I think this guy can go a bit far. I think Brett Johns has more potential than Joe Soto. Joe Soto is always going to be that fringe top 15, top 20 guy, where I think Brett Johns does have the potential to maybe be a top 10 fighter. I don't know he's ever fighting for a title, but he's still somewhat young. I don't know his exact age. He's been in the game for a little while, but
25.
25. There you go. That's still 25, young.
Joe Soto's 30.
Right. So Brett Johns is still young. He has many years ahead of him, and I think he could go, pretty far. I think the wrestling is the big factor here. Sort of what is not as neutralized. Joe Soto's grappling game, especially from bottom, and Brett Johns, on top game, from takedowns. Brett Johns is really good with the takedowns. Really good wrestler. Very good at controlling his opponents, and I think he's able to do that a bit to Joe Soto here. I don't think it'll be like a 30-27 grind fest. I think Joe Soto has enough what it takes off his back to mix it up and make it entertaining, but I think he'll find himself on his back a little too much, and I think this will be a close decision, but I do favor Brett Johns a bit here just because of that wrestling. I think he's able to spend a lot of time on top, and Soto just won't be able to do just enough. He'll come close, but not quite. It'll be probably 29-28, I think. If it stays standing, we don't see tons of Johns' striking. I would have to think Soto has a slight advantage there, but Johns could surprise this. He might have what it takes to win this anywhere, but definitely Johns via wrestling is who I'm picking. Give me Brett Johns here by decision. Moving on, we have a women's flyweight not title fight, but bout between Deanna Bennett, Vitamin D, taking on Melinda Fabian. Let me just go to the TUF bracket, and Deanna Bennett, I know she was the seed number 4, so she was had one of the more well-known fighters going in. She was she go out in the first.
No, she went out in the second. She lost to Cesaro Eubanks here.
That's right.
Would-be finalist.
That's right. Yeah. For anybody not listening, Ciara Eubanks was supposed to be fighting Nico Montano for the inaugural title in the main event. Eubanks, super heavy, I guess, couldn't make it to the weigh-ins with hospitalized, and Roxanne Modaferri, who lost her in the semifinals, is stepping up. So Deanna Bennett made it to the quarterfinals, lost by KO in round number 1. And her opponent, Melinda Fabian, I want to say she was out in the first round. Is that right?
She was. She lost to Ostovich.
She lost to Ostovich. Submission in round number 1. So
I think it was a Darth, if I remember correctly.
Who do you like here? Deanna Bennett, one of the bigger favorites on the card. Do you like her to get the job done, Jed?
Yeah, I like Deanna Bennett to get the job done. I just don't think a ton of Melinda Fabian. And Deanna Bennett is by no means the world's best fighter or the world's best strawweight, but Fabian's going to want to keep it on the feet to play to her strengths. But I think even on the feet, Deanna Bennett can compete. She might not win. She could win. It's not like Fabian's great there. And I think Deanna Bennett can effectively activate a wrestling game and work Fabian over on the floor. So give me Deanna Bennett. I think she's got to be a big favorite here, right? Yeah, huge favorite on the card. Justifiably, she's going to win this pretty easy with an early submission. It's my call.
That's a good pick. I'm going the same way with you and Bennett. She has the experience level. She's already fought for an Invicta belt. It didn't go her way. She ended up getting stopped by Livia Souza there in the first round. And she lost her last 2 fights after that. One was to Modaferri. The other was to Jody Esquivel. But both of them were pretty close. I actually thought she won the Esquivel fight. Bennett also had some pretty good wins on her resume. Colleen Schneider, Jennifer Maya, Juliana Pena. She's beat some decent competition in there as well. I think that her striking, though, is actually pretty underrated. Melinda Fabian, she has a variety of submission wins on her record, not too many finishes. I don't think any by knockout, actually. I think that Deanna Bennett is definitely going to have the upper edge in this one, just with her experience level, her overall skill level. I think that a submission, like you said, is possible. I wasn't really thinking that way, but, there's definitely the possibility. But I do think that Deanna Bennett is just a better fighter overall. She looked pretty solid in this Ciara Eubanks fight up until she got head kicked and knocked unconscious, which was awesome. But I think that Deanna Bennett definitely had the upper hand just up until that moment of the fight. But I do think that she's going to be able to take this one over Fabian. I like your submission pick, but I'm going to stick with what I have by a pretty dominant unanimous decision.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't watch The Ultimate Fighter. That's no surprise. I don't know much about Fabian. I knew who Deanna Bennett was going in. She's a big favorite. The odds makers who probably did a bit more research than I have, definitely high on Bennett in this fight. I see no reason not to be. Give me Deanna Bennett inside the distance, probably with some sort of submission. Next up, we move to the middleweight division. It is Eric Spicely taking on Gerald GM3 Meerschaert. Again, a pretty fun fight. You could kind of compare it to the Soto Jones fight in a way. Of course, Spicely is a bit more dynamic on the ground. Meerschaert likes, his top control. Jed, do you like Spicely or Meerschaert, who's a slight favorite here?
This is the one fight on the card I haven't made a pick yet on because I just can't quite decide how I think it's going to play out. My main factors I'm looking at for this fight here is that Eric Spicely is a way better fighter than we think he is. Basically, who are his losses to? His losses are to good fighters. He got choked out by Shoeface, which is just a horrific style matchup for him. Spice's entire game is built around his black belt and working the ground game, and Shoeface is a BJJ world champion. So that was just never going to be successful. And frankly, I feel like when that fight happened, one or maybe even both of y'all
were giving picked Eric Spicely.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're both fucking lunatics.
I picked Spicely. I like to say I picked Spicely by decision, not a submission.
Like me,
yeah,
right?
Well,
yeah.
I don't. There are a few times when you guys have made picks that have really just been like.
What's the other one? There's two. That was one of them. There's another one that was really.
You both there are several. You in particular picked four-time All-American wrestler.
Oh yes. Jeez.
Who's I can picture his face, but you picked him.
Andrew Holbrook.
Yeah, and I was like, well, that's
Gregor
dumb.
Gillespie.
Gregor Gillespie, that's right. And I remember giving you shit for that. And then both of you picked that dude who's been KO'd like 50 million times to beat Mike Perry.
Oh, Jake Ellenberger.
Jake Ellenberger. Both of you picked Jake Ellenberger to beat Mike Perry, and I thought that was dumb as shit too. And so sometimes you guys together make decisions that are really wild to me, and it's stuck. And I remember like,
Wes did pick Gregor. I was like,
didn't these motherfuckers pick Spicy to beat Shoeface? How stupid is that? And so I'm glad that I was correct in that. Shoeface is just a horrific style matchup for Spicy, so I don't take a lot of credit from him for taking that loss.
And for what it's worth, I'm a lot higher on Shoeface than I was even 6 months ago.
Exactly.
Like, he's actually a legit talent now. There was a time he was getting there, but not quite.
Yeah, I've been high on Shoeface. I think he's got a lot of potential. His other loss is to Sam Alvey, and then he may have lost in the. I know he lost in the Tough House because he didn't fight for the title, but I don't know who he lost to. But like losing to Sam Alvey and Shoeface, 2 top 15 middleweights, is not bad. And then the underdog submission of Thiago Santos, who is, in that kind of fringe middleweight area, is a really good win. And like that's just a solid record, whereas Gerald Meerschaert has just not the one guy he's fought that's any good, really, Thiago Santos, beat him up. So I think that Eric Spicely, he's way better than we give him credit for, because he's limited in that he is really a one-trick pony, but he's really good with that one trick. And I think he can have a lot of success against Gerald Meerschaert here. Meerschaert is not a good wrestler. Spicely isn't either, but I think Spicely can work takedowns. Meerschaert's not an awful grappler. I think he's outmatched in this particular regard. So it's kind of a push and pull to me between how often can Spicely win the takedown exchanges versus how often can Meerschaert keep it on the feet. And then how quickly can Meerschaert get up, survive the ground game, work back to his feet. And I think that it's a really close fight. I have been struggling with a lot. Meerschaert has such a pronounced advantage on the feet, and I think that he's probably good enough to survive that I sort of want to pick him here. But not to bury the lead, I have Spicer on my DraftKings team, because DraftKings for this card is impossible. Like, there's just no way to build a team without picking some underdogs in it. So just for funsies, I'm going to pick Eric Spicely for the upset win.
It's a close fight. I think it could be maybe entertaining, but I didn't know Eric Spicely was the underdog. But I guess that kind of makes sense.
It makes sense. I think it's right that he should be the underdog, but I think it's close.
Yeah, it is pretty close. I've seen these guys fight plenty of times, but I can't really think of areas that they struggle in. Because the guys they fought to, as you mentioned, Jed, they fought and lost to some pretty much the top tier competition.
Well, for what it's worth, Spicely definitely lacks on the feet.
Spicely has atrocious striking.
Yeah, it kind of showed.
Meerschaert has bad wrestling. His defensive wrestling is not good,
and that's why I think that Spicely is going to be able to get the job done. That's who I've been leaning with most of the fight. And also Gerald, he's been submitted numerous times.
Both of you motherfuckers should be taking Spicely if you picked his ass to beat Shoeface.
Oh, no, I'm saying Gerald Meerschaert has been submitted numerous times.
Yeah, he is.
In his mixed martial arts record. And the fact that Eric Spicely relies, like you said, on a submission game plan, I really think that if he gets this one down, he'll be able to submit Gerald Meerschaert. I know it's been a while since we've seen him on the opposite end of a submission loss, but I think that Eric Spicely is going to be able to get the job done. I think he's just going to be able to get those takedowns, and if he can, I'm pretty sure Meerschaert's going to struggle getting back up to his feet. Meerschaert could pull off some kind of decision, I think, if he keeps it standing, but I really don't think he's going to be able to stop those takedowns. So for those reasons, I'm going to take Eric Spicely. Initially having picked by a second-round sub, maybe a decision. I'm going to stick with the submission.
Yeah, I'm going with submission too, in case I didn't make that clear earlier.
Remind me, I know Meerschaert, he's not a traditional wrestler, but I always recall he's able to get on top.
Yeah, no, he's not an awful offensive wrestler. He has a decent trip, like inside trip takedown once he gets somebody up against the cage. But I actually do not believe he stopped any takedowns in the UFC. I think that every time somebody has tried to take him down, that he has been taken down.
Really? Wow. Let's see.
Takedown
accuracy 30%.
Yeah, that's accuracy is him shooting on people, not takedown. Is that takedown? What's his takedown defense?
I want to say that was defense, but takedowns what the hell?
I'm pulling up the fight metric now.
0%. There
0%. Ryan James took him down once, and Joe Gigliotti took him down once.
Wow.
So literally the 2 times people have tried to take him down, they have. And we already talked about Ryan James and how he's really shitty at wrestling, and he was able to get him down. That's basically why I ended up picking Spicely, because Spicely's a better wrestler than James and a better grappler than James and just better than James, and was able to have that limited amount of success against Mearshart. Yeah. Also, we went way past this, but I did just want to throw out a quick one on the Joe Soto thing. Joe Soto is a Team Oyama guy, and I don't think he gets enough credit. Colin Oyama is a really good coach.
So. Well, I said that I want to say a couple of weeks ago, because we were breaking one of his guys down, and Team Oyama's had a great 2017.
They had a really good year, and that's another reason why I was very conflicted on the Brett Johns fight, because Colin Oyama has been a very good coach, underrated for a while. He's had a very good year, and I could see Soto capping that off very well. But moving on, sorry. Explain your pick in the Spicely battle. And did you pick Deanna Bennett? Yeah, you had to have, right? Yeah. All right.
Yeah. This is a close one. Spicely Mearshart. This is it's a really tough one to call. I'm intrigued that both of you are going Eric Spicely, yet he is a slight underdog. I've been kind of back and forth on this. Eric Spicely by far has a grappling advantage. I'm not, he maybe has a wrestling advantage, but not by a lot. I think Mearshart's wrestling is good enough to perhaps take Spicely down. I mean, if these stats are right, and I'm kind of thinking it might not be, just because sometimes the stats are weird on UFC.com, but according to UFC.com, Spicely's never defended a takedown in the UFC either. Perhaps I would imagine he's had to have gotten taken down like that. Can't just be he's never been tried. Well,
I don't think so, because usually he's taking people down. And the shoe face thing, they ended up because like Alessio De Chirico would not take him down. Thiago Santos, that fight was over quickly. And then Sam Alvey was his UFC fights have all been first rounders except for the shoe face thing. But shoe face never tried to take him down. I think Spicely pulled guard on him once, and then they ended up in 50-50 guard for like the entire first round. But yeah, and then it makes sense that nobody's ever tried to take him down.
Yeah. It's a close fight.
Especially because he's shit on the feet, so just stand with him. That's the avenue to victory. So just keep it on the feet.
I'm tempted to go Mearshart, but
stick with your gut. Don't let us sway you.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not strong enough a person to be able to make up my own mind. This is really tough. Mearshart, I don't know. Like, he has a striking advantage, but he's not a striker. I don't think he'll be super tempted to keep this one standing. And if he goes to the ground with Spicely, I was initially thinking that he would be okay and be able to sit on top of Spicely. But now that I think about it, Spicely, I'm not sure he's skilled enough to be able to keep on top and get out of danger. I'm gonna go Gerald Mearshart, because let's make this interesting. I think we probably all have the same picks so far. And so let's make this a bit interesting. I'm either one up or one down on you guys as of now. I think he is able to get Spicely down, actually. The big worry here is what Spicely does when he's taken down. If that does happen, like I think it could. Does Spicely immediately scramble and get on top and tap him out? Perhaps it's very possible. On the feet, I think Mearshart does have, he's not a good striker, but he's good enough, because Spicely is not a good striker at all. And so I think he'd be able to outpoint Spicely there as well. So yeah, give me Gerald Mearshart. I think he has a few more paths to victory, although, Spicely by submission. That, this is one of those fights where it's like, if you're gonna don't throw Mearshart in the parlay, but like Spicely by submission, throw a very small sprinkle on that. It's probably like plus 300 maybe. It might be worth a stab. But yeah, give me Gerald Mearshart by decision. But a very interesting style matchup here. Actually, looking forward to it quite a bit. Moving on, we got Women's flyweights, Lauren Lucky Murphy taking on Barb, the Little Warrior Honchak. Lauren Murphy, to the surprise of some, she was the number 3 seed on TUF 26. She was out in the first round.
She was the number 3 seed? Damn.
Yeah. So she was appointed by Nico Montano, who is in the main event tonight or tomorrow night. We'll get to her. Murphy lost to Nico Montano in unanimous decision in 2 rounds, so 2018 across the board. And then, brain fart. Barb Honchak, yes, she was out in the semifinals. She also lost to Nico Montano. So 2 victims of the main event fighter here. Lauren Murphy, Barb Honchak, of course. Murphy stepping up on short notice. She was supposed to be on this card. Her opponent had visa issues. She was sent to this card nonetheless as an alternate if someone pulls out. Luckily for her, someone did pull out. That would have been Eubanks in the main event. And Roxy moved up from this fight. She was supposed to fight Honchak. Long story short, here we are. Lauren Lucky Murphy, Barb Honchak. Jed, who's the pick?
Give me Barb Honchak. I think she's one of the better fighters in the tournament. I think she had a real. I think she might have probably been the favorite to win the tournament ahead of it. I know she was the number 2 seed, but I think people probably would have pegged her as the lead horse in the race in general for a reason. And I think that I think she has enough pressure on the feet to compete with Lauren Murphy there, and I think she can work a grappling game effectively. I think this is really just straightforward. She's a better athlete than Lauren Murphy, a better grappler, and going to do those things to Lauren Murphy. So, yeah, give me Barb Honchak by decision.
I personally am not really looking forward to this one. I know they're pretty big names, and I know that Barb Honchak had a great career, especially early on, but she's pretty up there in age. Lauren Murphy, though, is just not the most entertaining fighter in the world to watch. I don't think this is going to be too exciting of a fight. They both like to grapple, and they both like to look for takedowns and try to get on top. But when it comes down to it, Barb Honchak is much more superior at doing that, and especially maintaining her top control when she's able to get her takedowns. Lauren Murphy a lot of times let her opponents back up, and her opponents are able to pull off the victories in the end. So I think Barb Honchak's pretty much like what Jed said, just a better athlete overall. I don't think Lauren Murphy is going to be able to ever get Barb Honchak down to the ground. Maybe she'll surprise me, of course, because I said that. But I'm going to take 38-year-old Honchak. I think she'll be able to get it done. Maybe a late stoppage, but I'm going to say since Lauren Murphy's never been stopped, a decision.
Yeah, give me Barb Honchak here. Lauren Murphy stepping up on short notice. I know Honchak hasn't had I guess or if that matters all that much, because Murphy was preparing to fight up until pretty recently, and she was training as an alternate.
She was preparing this whole week. Like she was just ready.
I guess that really, now that I think about it, really probably has no impact. It does on both fighters, but that would cancel.
Yeah, it's the same impact on both fighters.
So stylistically, though, I think Lauren Murphy. It's kind of weird with Lauren Murphy. Like, she probably beat Sarah McMahon way back in August 2014. I think that was her debut. And she was sort of not robbed, but there were a number of, the McMahon and Liz Carmouche fight probably both should have gone her way. Then she fought Kelly Fasholz in February 2016. She hasn't fought since July 2016. It was a decision loss to Caitlin Chookagian. I feel like she's better than her record in the UFC shows, but she's sort of been almost going down. She's getting up there in age. So is Barb Honchak, of course, though. Both fighters have been very inactive over the past little while besides TUF. Give me Honchak, though. I think she's just better, a bit more athletic, probably can get the takedowns, and if not, probably win on the feet. Give me Barb Honchak here by decision. Not sure how great this fight will be. Next up, we go to the co-main event of the evening. We got Sean O'Malley making his debut after a first-round KO win on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, and also post smoking a joint with none other than Snoop Dogg, his proudest moment of his life. He's taking on Tyrion Ware. Flash, he's coming off his debut loss to Cody Stamann. It was decision loss, but it doesn't look as bad now that Stamann got a win over Tom Duquesnoy. That was a big upset. So interesting matchup here stylistically. Could be a bit of fun. O'Malley or Ware? Who do you got, Jed?
I got O'Malley. They're clearly hoping that he goes somewhere. They think they might have found somebody with that it factor, and they could be right. Really young, 23 years old. He fights a little bit like a bootleg Conor McGregor, and acts like, I don't know, a 23-year-old kid who thinks smoking a joint with Snoop Dogg's the high point of his life. He's really offensively potent, and Tyrion Ware's a defensive liability. That's the game plan here. Sean O'Malley is not the best fighter in the world, not even close. He's got huge holes and huge liabilities. And if he ever faces a grinder, if he fought Cody Stamann, he would just lose in a very, very one-sided fashion. Or if he ever fights somebody with a ton of offense to throw back, then he's going to be in big trouble, because Sean O'Malley is incredibly hittable on the feet, really lacks any semblance of defense basically at all. But he makes up for it by the fact that he's young, he's pretty long for the division, and he's got potent offense. He's got good strikes from distance with power, got a great finishing instinct, fairly smart at this point as far as inside the cage. His IQ seems to be right. On the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender thing, when he was finding success with strikes, he kept going back to that well, trying to work that over, and it ended up getting the knockout. Questions about his gas tank too. Tyrion Ware, for all his foibles, which are many, defensively especially as well, he has a great gas tank. So maybe if he can outlast the early part, maybe he can go into deeper waters and have some success there. But he gets hit. Tyrion Ware just gets hit too much, and Sean O'Malley hits too hard. Even if Ware maybe is a little more technical, a little more refined, eventually he's just going to get clipped, and Sean O'Malley's going to put him away, and then they can start backing Sean O'Malley as the new guy that they want to push.
I'm going to Sean O'Malley as well in this one. I think it's a pretty interesting fight. I think Tyrion Ware's best way to get a victory in this one is getting probably O'Malley on his back and just being able to outlast that first round, kind of like what you hit it on, Jed. Ware's pretty solid when he's on top. Not too great, but he's able to control some of the fighters he's fought when they're on their back. And we saw O'Malley when he fought in Contender Series kind of struggled with that with the guy that he fought. But I think that what it's going to come down to is who's going to be able to last better in a 3-round fight. I think Sean O'Malley is going to be able to have maybe the better cardio, just a hit better than Tyrion Ware, who seems to just kind of slow down, get a little sloppy with strikes as fights kind of proceed. O'Malley does get hit a bit, but so does Tyrion Ware. I think Sean O'Malley is going to be able to find a stoppage in maybe the second round. I'm actually kind of leaning Ware. I think he might be able to first one if he gets it down to the ground. But I do think, like I mentioned, O'Malley's just offensive output and Ware's susceptibility to just losing cardio as the fights progress. I think that Sean O'Malley is going to be able to just hold his own a little bit more. So I'm taking Sean O'Malley. I've got him by his second round knockout over Tyrion Ware.
Yeah, I'm leaning Sean O'Malley here as well. I think I hate to keep this boring, but I think this is a pretty good matchup for him. I think Ware has a pretty solid potential of getting an upset here because he's a slightly more technical striker from what we've seen. Both guys are super hittable. I think Ware has maybe a slightly worse chin. Just sort of my gut instinct. O'Malley, he's undefeated. He's the next guy, so to speak. He probably won't be, but that's what Dana White says. But Dana White says really does not hold much virtue whatsoever. Nonetheless, I do think Sean gets the job done here. Let's sort of don't hop on the bandwagon quite yet. Let's see him have a couple UFC fights first, and then we can start talking perhaps if he looks good. This is a good step up from Contender Series. I think Ware's a bit more technical on the feet, but I think O'Malley just hits a tad harder. It really ultimately comes down to who lands a big shot first. I think O'Malley has a few more tools than the two big on the feet, so give me O'Malley by knockout, let's say round number 2. That brings us to the main event. The first UFC Women's Flyweight Champion will be crowned Nico Montano, taking on short notice replacement Roxy, the Happy Warrior, Modaferri. What's that, Jed?
Before we do the main event, let's just go over the other fights
just
quickly, sure. And then we can finish on that. And you guys should do it because I'm gonna say like one thing about each fight since I actually did fucking research for this shit. So you guys give me your picks so I can write them down.
Right. Okay. So let's go back to the first fight of the night, the FS or the Fight Pass or the prelim I was talking about, and then skipped right over. We got Jillian Robertson taking on Emily Whitmire. Jed, since you want to talk about this fight so much, how about it?
I don't want to talk about it much, but I do think it is worth noting that I was surprised by the odds. I have Robertson. I think Robertson should be the favorite. I think she's going to win the fight. She's an underdog, not like a huge one, but I think Jillian Roberts looked much better on TUF than Emily Whitmire did. I think Jillian Roberts is a fighter who doesn't deserve to be in the UFC yet, but she's actually going to be good. She's not going to be great. But if you watch her other fights or you watch her effort in the house, she looks exactly like what she is, which is a really, really raw prospect from a good camp. She trains at ATT, and you can see the pieces of a developing game coming, and that's just going to come into effect. I think she's going to handle Emily Whitmire fairly easily at range. She's got good leg kicks, and she feels confident in her striking. There's just not depth there, and I think she can absolutely control the wrestling. And win this fight by that. So I'm taking an underdog with Roberts. Wes, you guys throw out a pick.
Wes
is muted and doesn't know it. So Nicholas, do you throw out a pick while Wes figures out his?
I'm going to Emily Whitmire.
I was muted because I was enjoying some Dairy Queen a minute ago. But in the ultimate end, I kind of went Emily Whitmire. I thought she was pretty cute. If you're single, feel free to hit me up. Or I will hit you up, whatever one works, and we'll go somewhere. Not Dairy Queen.
Why not? Dairy Queen's delightful.
Dairy Queen is pretty good, unless she's weight cutting.
Get a little dipped cone action. That's what's up.
I went a Blizzard. I had some kind of cake.
What's in it?
I don't know, Emily. Just let me know.
Rich man, get in the Blizzard.
Ooh, that's what's
we'll
up.
See.
Answer Jed's question. What type of Blizzard? That's more important than anything.
Not birthday cake. I think it was just like a chocolate cake.
Emily, get rid of him. Get rid of him, Emily. He's got a chocolate cake. Come on. The only answer is Reese's.
Okay, Reese's is good.
We already covered this, Jed, on the MMA circus, right?
Reese's is good, but the chocolate cake is new. I had to give it a shot.
All right, I like the effort. Let's move on so we can finish this card.
I'm tempted to go to Dairy Queen tomorrow because I have never heard of this chocolate cake. I know what chocolate cake is, but not the Blizzard flavor. So we'll see. Check that out. Okay, so Ariel Beck taking on Shanna Dobson.
Shanna Dobson's gonna win. Ariel Beck's really bad at fighting. She's apparently had like pro boxing experience, but she is just not like that's how she got into MMA was as a pro boxer, and then she decided, and she like had some amateur success like on the national stage, which I mean isn't like not tremendous, but still like it shocks me because she's a terrible grappler. She's not great at striking either. Shanna Dobson, also a striker. I just think she's a little more athletic. I'll be interested to see if either of them try to grapple. And Ariel Beck, despite having the pro boxing experience, probably needs to make it a little bit more of an ugly brawl than like a technical striking match. So Shanna Dobson going to win a probably maybe fun bad kickboxing fight. I think that's the best we can hope for here.
I think the only way Dobson loses is if she gets taken down. I think she's pretty good on the feet. I'm taking Shanna Dobson as well. I've got her by a decision.
I'm going Ariel Beck, and the only reason that is the case is because on the Bloody Elbow TUF 26 finale stat prediction, everybody who put in a pick who isn't as many as normal just because this card, who cares, but everyone's going back, and so we're probably all going to be losers. But
you guys are insane. Jesus.
Yeah, so Dane, Steffi, Bissell, Fraser, Nick, Phil, and Mookie all going Ariel Beck. Fraser's the only one who broke down Ariel Beck KO round 1. Statement. That's a bold statement.
Wow. Zane.
Everyone else just followed suit, saw the first person throwing a pick and said, hey, must be the winner there. So give me Ariel Beck. We move on. We got Karine Javorian taking on Rachel Ostovich.
Ostovich going to win this pretty easily. I think she's one of the bigger favorites on the card. She is minus 325. Karine Javorian is one. She missed weight too. She blew weight, came at 130, got fined 30% of her purse. So that's always the thing. But basically, it just kind of feels like Ostovich should be favored everywhere. And Gevorgian's gonna be bigger. She's a bigger person, not us, along with the fact that she blew weight. But she's fought terrible people. And Rachel Ostovich is just kind of tougher, has good counters. I think she gets it done.
I'm going Ostovich as well. Karine, I think that all of her fights, she's been either finished in the first round or won in the first round. Rachel Ostovich, I'm not sure she has the ability to get a first round finish. She doesn't really have that much experience, but I do think she can get a finish, seeing that Gevorgian has been stopped before. I'm taking Ostovich by second round submission.
Yeah, give me Ostovich inside the distance. Bigger favorite. She seems like a decent fighter, kind of. Georgian, who knows? And last but not least, Christina Marks and Montana De La Rosa. And one point. I'm just looking at the TUF, like the TUF 26 tournament bracket. Other than Eubanks, who of course was pulled from the card, the only person who didn't get a call to the UFC, to my knowledge, is Maya Stevenson. How terrible must Maya Stevenson feel? All 15 fighters out of 16 get the call, except for one.
My guess is that there's an actual reason for that, since Lauren Murphy was set to take on that whoever, Priscilla or whatever. My guess is that there is a reason behind it, because Maya Stevenson got subbed in the second round by Sajara Eubanks, who was probably going to win the whole damn thing. And like, that's a much better loss than like a lot of the than Karine Gevorgian's insta loss to Deanna Bennett, or like, so I feel like there's got to be some other story going on there.
Probably. So last but not least, it was Christina Marks and Montana De La Rosa.
Oh, it's super straightforward. Montana Stewart / De La Rosa. I don't know why there's a difference here. I'm guessing that there's marriages involved. She was Stewart on the show. De La Rosa is everywhere else. So whichever one she is, she's going to win, and easily. She can pretty handily get takedowns and is way, way, way better on the floor than Christina Marks. And that is all she wrote. Montana Stewart going to win early, going to probably submit her or punch her into submission.
Yeah, Christina Marks lost to Alexis Dufresne. That's pretty awful. Montana Stewart's definitely going to win this one.
So did Marlon Coonan.
Submission.
Christina Marks also got insta-tapped by Emily Whitmire in the TUF house.
Pretty bad, too.
Yeah, well, great. As I said, Marloes Coonan lost to Dufresne, so.
Yeah, Marloes Coonan lost to the worst striker in the history of the world. Why can't I think of that woman's name? I'll figure it out later. You guys go on.
So I'm going.
She just fought in the UFC.
I'm going. Who knows? I'm going Montana De La Rosa as well. Yeah, that's the pick. So now we move on to the main event: UFC Women's Flyweight
Cindy
Gold.
Dandois is who I was thinking of. Jesus.
Oh yeah. God. Oh my.
She is fighting for Ryzen, right?
She's in the UFC still, right?
Oh, is she?
I don't have any idea. She's training partners with Miesha Tate. That's why she's in the UFC.
Cindy Dandois, I thought she got tapped out by or lost to Alexis Davis and cut her right away, or maybe someone else, maybe.
Well, I don't know. It could be her.
Whatever.
I don't know. Battle Cat is just the actual worst. Her last fight was in Cage Warriors, so.
All right. Well, anyways, moving on. Main event: Roxanne Modaferri taking on Nico Montano for the UFC Women's Flyweight title, the first ever, the one and only. Who do you like, Jed, to walk away with the UFC gold?
Well, this is a tough one because I was gonna be different because me and Wes have mostly picked the same people, except for my opening pick of the evening because I think Robertson's gonna beat Whitmire. I think we've been the same all along. I think reasonably Montano is going to win. I believe that she is going to win. I think she's just a much, much better athlete. And I think that, the story of this season of TUF was the two best athletes made their way through the house and into the finals. And I hope she doesn't, though, man. I know it's a weird circumstance, but it would – let's all be honest. Let's just call it what it is. Whoever wins this fight tomorrow is going to be your women's flyweight champion.
Until Valentina Shevchenko drops down.
Until a lot of other women enter the. In no way is the woman tomorrow the best flyweight fighter in the world. Look, I would not be entirely surprised if they somehow just shoehorn Paige VanZant quickly into a title shot, because she could beat either of the women in the main event tomorrow. It's just they're good fighters in their ways. Montano is still very raw. I think she's 2 years into the game. I believe she started her fighting career in 2015. She has talent. Right. She has talent and can go places, especially if she gets with a better camp. But she's not there. And I don't want her to win because Roxanne Modaferri has never been the best fighter in the world, but she is a trailblazer. She has been competing since 2003. She has fought some of the best across all weight divisions for well over a decade. And she's also just an awesome person. Like, the Happy Warrior is a great name for her. I believe she retired at one point, came back, and this would just be the ultimate capper for her career. And I don't care if it's Hallmark Disney Channel movie shit. Straight up, I want her to win because of that. It would mean so much to her, and she deserves it for a lot of reasons outside of being the best and deserving fighter in the world.
And did you know that she is a colleague of one Wes Riddle?
I had no idea.
She actually writes over at MMA Secca once in a while.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, she's just a really cool person, and for a card that basically nobody gives a shit about, in my opinion, the only way this card kind of stands out as something memorable or worthwhile is if she wins tomorrow night, because that's a story. It's a story. It's a moment in MMA that means something. Nico Montano winning doesn't mean anything. It just means this is the woman who gets to lose to Valentina Shevchenko. And, good for her. But I think it's a tough road to hoe for Modaferri. Montano is a much better athlete. Modaferri is not really going to be able to work takedowns all that effectively. Montano, what she has shown to be very good at is defensive wrestling. Her clinch work is very strong. But that being said, I am going to pick Roxanne Modaferri. It's both a little bit of a heart pick, and it is the fact that, like, one of the things I hate about giving a title on a TUF show is that the TUF tournament is very, very different from the rest of the fighting game. In the same way that, like, one-night tournaments aren't really in any way the same measure of fighting as the way the rest of MMA plays out. TUF tournaments favor athleticism, wrestling, and basically cardio, because you're fighting so often in such quick succession. You don't tailor make a game plan for somebody and drill in specific triggers and stuff. You just kind of go out there, let it all hang out, and hope that your game works. And those parameters actually greatly favor young athletic fighters like Eubanks, like Montano, and are not super good for a person who's a negative athlete like Modaferri is, who needs to have a more specific game plan, and who basically made her way through the house falling back on the fact that she has such a wealth of experience over all her other competitors. I'm picking her because I think that with the time to prepare, not specifically for this opponent per se, since the last minute change, but with the time to prepare a training camp, she got to have a lot more specific preparation, a lot more specific work. She can use that experience in a more effective way. I think on the feet, she throws more volume. She can win points, win rounds there. And if she can take it to the later rounds, this is going to be the biggest stage Montano has ever been on. And maybe that gets her a little jitters. It's really mostly a heart pick. I do think Montano wins, but I'm taking Modaferri, and I hope she gets it.
Yeah, I think probably just out of respect for Succa, I'm not going to give my pick for this one, but I will definitely say that I'm 100% on Modaferri's side. Really going to be cheering her on for this fight. I hope she can get the job done. It would be really cool to see her get a belt, because she's worked really hard in her mixed martial arts career to get to this point, especially for the fact, too, I'm pretty sure she's the only fighter on this season of The Ultimate Fighter that was on a previous season of The Ultimate Fighter. I'm not 100% sure about that. Maybe Lauren Murphy was. But
that sounds right. Sure. Yeah.
The only other person.
Either way, Modaferri has been active for such a long time. She's beat some pretty great names throughout her mixed martial arts career. She's fought some of the best. She's beat some of the best. I really hope she's going to be able to get the job done tomorrow night. So I'll be cheering for her, and hopefully everybody is.
I'm not embarrassed to say that I had no idea who Nico Montano was up until like the other day when I heard she was going to be fighting for the title a week from then. What does Montano do best? Like, how did I've never seen her fight because I don't watch TUF. Like, how did the Honchak fight go? Because that's a big upset.
Pretty much, she was able to win the clinch exchanges, and she looked really good when she got on top in the fight that she had with her second opponent.
She's a way better athlete than everybody. That's basically it. She won in the clinches. Honchak, she's not a great striker, but she has enough pop in her hands and enough kind of athleticism to be competent there. In the first round, she ended up getting Honchak down at some point. She did very well in the clinch, and then at some point she got Honchak down. And the second round, Honchak like felt really compelled to get a takedown, and ended up falling under her. And then she's like solid. She's a solid top position grappler. Really pretty good defensive wrestling and good work in the clinch, and just kind of being a little more powerful than people in the house is kind of how she got there.
So it sounds like she does a lot of what Roxy does. Get on top.
I mean, yeah, in that regard. Modaferri is more dangerous off her back. Throws more volume on the feet, has much more depth of skill in general, but Montano is much more athletic.
Well, in this one, I think I do favor skill over athleticism. Give me Roxy Modaferri to win the UFC bantamweight title or flyweight title. Close fight from what you guys have said. Again, I'm not too familiar with Montano, but considering Modaferri can get grounded out, I think that's sort of what we saw in the Eubanks fight, if I'm not mistaken. That's what I heard, anyways. Kind of got out muscled there, maybe not outskilled. Montano, maybe she could do that to Modaferri, but to me, Modaferri has the experience. Montano's 2-2 or 3-2 in her pro career. She hasn't been doing this for that long. Modaferri's fought the best of the best for the most part. The best women's flyweight, maybe Jennifer Maia, probably.
As in the world, or as in who?
As in
Modaferri's fought.
The world.
Valentina Shevchenko is the best woman.
Oh yes, okay. I totally forgot about her because she
what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess
she's the best women's bantamweight in the world.
It's a good point. I guess besides her, just because she's been fighting at bantamweight. So if Shevchenko wasn't in the flyweight run, like if she wasn't planning on dropping down, like I'm just trying to think.
Yeah, probably Jennifer Maia at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be.
Roxy took her to a split, so Roxy's a good fighter. She's a solid fighter. She's not a great fighter. I'm not so sure Montano, you can put that label on her either. I think Modaferri is a bit more dangerous. She has the output. I just think she's the better fighter, and maybe she does get outgrinded. Maybe she gets out muscled, or Montano is just able to work her way to a victory because she's the more athletic person in this matchup, which is very true. But yeah, I like Modaferri. I think she's able to make this a grinding fight. I think it'll be pretty gritty. She might throw in, some nasty ground and pound. That's typically what she likes to do. Give me the Happy Warrior and new and first UFC 1 flyweight champion. We might as well, go to our DraftKings for this card, and then everything else, and then we'll go to 218. So let us start with the bonuses. What's that?
I'm debating on one last spot on my DraftKings team, so let's go to bonus first.
Performance bonuses and underdog pick of the week. Wes, who do you got?
Oh God, that's a tough one. I guess if I have to get performances, I'm gonna go for fight of the night. We'll go, I guess, Sean O'Malley, Tyrion Ware, but I really don't know if there's going to be a fight of the night that really stands out to be like, that definitely deserved the fight of the night, if you know what I mean. Two performances. I'm going to give one to – that's tough too. I'll give one a starting to debate now. I'll give one to Montana Stewart / De La Rosa. I think she'll be able to submit Christina Marks. And I feel like they're going to be wanting to target the fighters that were on TUF to get bonuses. And secondly, I'm going to give one to Deanna Bennett because I think she'll be able to get a pretty decisive victory in that one over Melinda Fabian.
Underdog?
My underdog pick of the week? I don't have the odds up. Is there anybody that I mentioned that you all know off the top of your head that is an underdog?
I have the odds up.
Spicely is the only underdog, I think, because you went Whitmire, Dodson. Yeah. Ostovich, Sanchez, Spicely is definitely an underdog. You picked Brett Johns, Bennett, Honchak. Yeah, Spice is the only underdog you picked.
That's unfortunate. I'll go Spicy then.
What about you, Nikolai?
Tough one. Nothing stands out. There's a lot that doesn't stand out. Tim might not be so great. Performances, I will go Deanna Bennett and Wes. You went De La Rosa, right? And Bennett.
I did.
So to change that up, just to not copy you completely, I'll go Deanna Bennett and Rachel Ostovich. For my fight tonight, I will go Joe Soto versus Brett Johns.
Underdog?
Underdog pick of the week. I think the only dog is Ariel Beck. I have no confidence in Ariel Beck because I don't know who she is. And I, as I said,
you picked Modaferri, who's also a dog.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, give me Roxanne Modaferri then for my underdog pick of the week.
All right. My fight of the night, I'm taking the main event. It's 5 rounds. I think it's always a good thing. I also think that if Modaferri can win, it might be a fun fight. So give me Roxanne Modaferri versus Nico Montano as your fight of the evening. My performances kind of surprised Sean O'Malley. Didn't get a shout out from y'all. I think if he has a good performance, they're definitely going to give him a bonus. This is the guy they're trying to push. I think he can land the shots to put Terrion Ware away. So give him one. I think y'all's other picks are all perfectly good, perfectly reasonable. Wouldn't be super surprised to see any of them get performance kind of justifiable things because he's an underdog and because I think he's going to get a submission. I'm going to take Spicely as my other performance bonus winner, though, just to kind of keep it mixed up and a little different. My underdog pick was gonna be Spicely, but since Wes picked that, the other underdog I took on the card, I took Jillian Robertson. Give me Jillian Robertson. Let's kind of keep it diverse and interesting and different. So those are my picks. I would request that we have a very brief hiatus before moving. Oh, we still have to do DraftKings. That's right. I need to take a piss though, so I'm gonna give you guys my DraftKings.
You don't even okay, so you do have it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you my DraftKings team because I don't need to record that since you guys are submitting them, and you guys can just tell the people the DraftKings team, your DraftKings team, while I go take a piss. So I'm gonna throw mine out there right now so I can go do that real quick. My DraftKings team. This is a really freaking tough week, or this is a tough event for a DraftKings team because all the favorites are like big DraftKings favorites. So basically, every underdog I picked is on my squad. I picked Derek Spice as an underdog. I picked Roxanne Modaferri as an underdog. I picked Jillian Robertson as an underdog. All 3 of them coming in under $8,000. They're all on my team. Then it's just finding the right combination of huge favorites that can make the money work that you think are going to get the quickest wins. For me, Deanna Bennett, I think she's going to have an early, quick night against Fabian with an early submission, 9,400. I'm taking Brett Johns. I know that we talked a lot about that fight, and that fight's close, but basically to fit anybody else, I needed somebody who wasn't that expensive, and Johns wasn't that expensive. And taking a page out of Nikolai's book here, Brett Johns going to get like 87 takedowns because Joe Soto's going to stand back up and he's just going to keep taking down again, get all the points in the world. That left me with a substantial enough money that I could basically put anybody I wanted on the card. And at that point, it was just determining between Andrew Sanchez, how often is he going to take down Ryan James to get points? Rachel Ostovich, is she going to get an early finish there? It's just a tough. I debated for a long time. Ultimately, ended up choosing James. That might end up changing come fight of the evening, but he's just gonna. I think. Not James, means Sanchez. But maybe I have enough money that I could dump Sanchez because he's such a big favorite and put De La Rosa or put Ostovich. Actually, you know what? I am going to cut Sanchez and just put let's put De La Rosa. I think she's going to smash marks anyway. So I'm taking De La Rosa. That's my squad. Brett Johns, De La Rosa, Spicely, Bennett, Robertson, Modaferri, and you fellas enjoy. I'll be right back.
Cool. You go for it, Wes, because I had a team and now I'm doubting it and changing it up a little bit.
Yeah, I've got a team put together, but I'm honestly not happy with some of the options that I have. But then again, maybe it could work. Maybe it couldn't. There's one fighter I have on my team. I don't know why she's on my team, and I definitely want to get her off. So I may have to look at the DraftKings team a little bit later. But I'll run it from the top. I've got Montana Stewart. I think that she could definitely get a finish in her fight. and definitely score some takedowns. I've got Brett Johns. So there's 2 fighters. I think Jed and I agree with 3. Or we have 3 the same. I have Brett Johns. He averages 98.8 points per fight, and that's out of 2 UFC fights, which is a pretty high and substantial number. Kind of like what Jed was saying about you and Zabit when you did it the other day. Those takedowns can really add up, and if you can just take down Joe Soto relentlessly, I think that he'll be able to get some decent points. Brett Johns, throw him on there. I'll say the other one I agree with Jed on, and that's Eric Spicely. I think if Spicely can get a submission finish and score a couple takedowns there against a fighter who doesn't really have the best takedown defense in Gerald Meerschaert, Spicely could get some points. Of the 3 fighters I threw on, I'll say my worst one right now that I definitely went off. Lauren Murphy, I threw her on there. I have Sean O'Malley. I feel like he has the ability to definitely get a stoppage over a guy like Terrion Ware because he does have that knockout power. And then the other one I picked, I had to pick one that was in the top 2. I went with Nico Montano just to make it a little bit interesting. I think that either her or Modaferri could get some points, but because I've been leaning Modaferri just with my heart, I thought that I'd switch it up and just go with a different fighter in DraftKings. So I threw Nico Montano on there, thinking that maybe she can get some points, seeing that she does have some her losses are pretty decent competition, so maybe she could get some points. But I feel like one of the 2 that are in the main event, you definitely need on your DraftKings team, and that's my lineup.
Again, I was just gonna say this is again a situation, Wes, where you don't lose. You're really sneaky with that. Throw one on DraftKings, pick the other, or want the other.
Just give me a real quick rundown of your team, just because I want to hear it.
Yeah, I went with – so we have 3 that are the same, and I'll tell you those first. We have Montana Stewart,
okay,
Brett Johns, and Eric Spicely.
Okay.
And then the 3 that I have different, I have Nico Montano, Lauren Murphy, Sean O'Malley.
All right.
Alrighty. And Jed, do you want to run down yours real quick?
Wait, Nick, did you give yours out?
No, not yet. That's why I want yours.
Oh, okay. I gotta pull mine back up. Sorry, I got rid of it. It was, though, I can go off the top of my head because it was really not that hard. It was Deanna Bennett, De La Rosa, Bennett, Johns, Modaferri, Robertson, Spicely. So the first 3 that I share with Wes, Stewart / De La Rosa, John, Spicely, and then I got Modaferri, Robertson, and Bennett.
Alrighty. Well, the 3 we share, I believe, are Brett John, Sean O'Malley, and Roxanne Modaferri.
I don't have O'Malley on my team, so we definitely do share O'Malley. Wes has O'Malley on his team.
All right. Well, before trying to, getting confused, let me just say my team. It is Brett Johns, Sean O'Malley, Gerald Meerschaert, Roxanne Modaferri, Ariel Beck, and Barb Honchak.
Wait, what? Johns, okay. O'Malley.
We got Johns, O'Malley, Meerschaert.
Okay.
Roxanne Modaferri.
Okay.
Ariel Beck.
Okay.
And Barb Honchak.
All right.
So that is it.
That's an interesting enough diversity in our choices
here. I was looking at Meerschaert because I made this before breaking it down. Tonight, before I was a bit more confident in Meerschaert than I was now. Don't love him on my team considering he's 8,700, but there's no other 80, someone in the 8,000s that is worth it. So, yeah, probably keeping that, but who knows? That is it for UFC or for the Ultimate Fighter 26 finale. We're done with that. Let us move on to the good fights. The next day in Detroit, Michigan, this Saturday, UFC 218, Max Holloway, Jose Aldo, running it back. Round number 2. Fight 2. Max Holloway is the featherweight champion. He's defending it for the very first time against the man he took it away from, Jose Aldo Jr., one of the best featherweight of all time. I was going to say one of, and then I realized that is a big mistake. He is obviously by far, no one's even close, the best 145-pounder on the planet of all time. So let us run through this card. This is a fantastic card. We'll go through each and every fight. I'm a little tired. Maybe we made a mistake by starting with TUF just because we weren't as tired. and we took a little while, but nonetheless, let us do it. Let's see how long this takes. It's going to be a long show. We're already an hour in. UFC 218 starts out on Fight Pass 6:15 p.m. Eastern, 3:15 p.m. Pacific. We got the heavyweights kicking things off. It is Justin Big Pretty Willis and Alan Pretty Boy Crowder. That is hilarious how Pretty is in both of their nicknames. That's good. Jed, you like Willis or Crowder? Crowder is from Dana White Contender Series.
I like Justin Willis. I think he's a judicious favorite. He trains at a much better camp, and sometimes I think that's really just all you need to know. No knock on Alan Crowder, who has put together okay wins, fought Curtis Blades once upon a time. But he lost the one good guy he fought, Curtis Blades, he lost to. He also lost to something called Ryan Pokrifry. I don't even know. And Justin Willis he lost his debut, but since then, he's beaten guys who at least have experience. His last fight against James Mulheron was solid enough. James, worked a good, healthy number of takedowns, a healthy number of strikes. He's a big boy, got power, and he's a southpaw, trains at a better camp. That's enough for me. Give me Justin Willis. Let's go with a late stoppage.
I was thinking of stoppage in this one for Justin Willis, but I kind of went decision in the end just because it's been a while since Crowder's lost by knockout. He's put together some wins here in a row, but a lot of them have come by kind of grinding against the clinch and getting on top. Justin Willis does the exact same thing, but I think he can do it a little bit better. Also, seeing that Justin Willis trains out of AKA, I think he has pretty much just a better camp going into this one in comparison to Alan Crowder. And also, he's already fought in the UFC and World Series of Fighting. I think Justin Willis will get it done pretty decisively. I think he'll just win the clinch battles and maybe get a takedown in there too. So, like you said, Jed, late stoppage or probably just a 30-27 decision.
Yeah, I was kind of getting confused with Justin Willis. I think with maybe even someone else. I don't remember, but I was thinking this guy I knew he was coming off his debut victory, but it was a 30-27, and now I recall it wasn't the most impressive performance. So I don't know. I'll sort of have my opinion on Willis saved for after this card and see sort of what he's been able to do since that debut and really be able to determine whether or not he can go far, whether he's a good fighter. Alan Crowder, he fought on one of the few Contender Series shows I missed. I caught most of them. The Crowder one was one of the ones I did not get a chance to watch, so I don't recall much of what he did on that show. I know he got, he did enough to get a call to the UFC. So it must have been like a knockout, I would assume. I'm going to go Justin Willis. He has been here, even though it's only been for one fight. He seems to. I would think he hits a bit harder than Crowder. I don't know. I'm not sure this is a great way to start things off. If it's the first round knockout, absolutely. But I'm thinking Willis might just take home a decision. Going to be close, but yeah, give me Big Pretty by unanimous decision. Next up, we go to a 205-pound bout that probably does end via stoppage. You got Jeremy Kimball, Grizzly, taking on Dominic the Devastator Reyes. Jed, you like Kimball, the pretty massive underdog here, or does Reyes get the job done? What?
Do I like Kimball? Come on, bro. There ain't no fucking chance. Dominic Reyes is not like a great fighter. He's very young in his career, but he shows a lot of signs of a good prospect. He's getting people out and getting them out early. Joachim Christensen is a fairly tough dude, and he got melted. And Jeremy Kimball is like the best thing you can really say about Jeremy Kimball is that he is durable, can hang in there for a little bit. Doesn't bring a ton of potent offense. This is going to be very straightforward. Dominic Reyes, early stoppage.
I literally have nothing else to add. Dominic Reyes is a much better fighter, undefeated, and as Jed mentioned, it gets him out quick. Jeremy Kimball gets hit a little bit too much for my liking. I think Dominic Reyes gets a stoppage in 45 seconds.
Nice.
Put in a number on it.
I'll put a number on it.
I like that.
I'm going Dominic Reyes here in round number 1 as well, but I think Kimball might be a little better than we all think. I remember in his last fight, he was an underdog going into that one against Joshua Stansbury. We all picked Stansbury to win that fight, but I wasn't as confident as you fellas, and I put Kimball on my DraftKings, and that as an underdog, that is a very cheap one that I thought would get 0 points, and that ended up paying off big time. He got a first-round knockout, over 100 points for this guy right here. So that's one of my more proud moments of my life. Not gonna lie, Kimball on my DraftKings. Quite the snipe, if I might say. But I'm not going to snipe Jeremy Kimball here. Dominic Reyes, I think, actually has some potential. I hate saying that because he's 1-0 in the UFC, and it's light heavyweight. It seems like we get all these guys undefeated 205ers all the time, and they end up losing like 3 fights in. So who knows? But he puts, he's a hard hitter. He might not look like it, but he hits damn hard. He gets his opponents out of there really good. He seems to be somewhat well-rounded. I mean, from what we've seen, we haven't seen his ground game, but just sort of a gut feeling. Kimball is probably a bit stronger here, but Reyes is a lot bigger as far as height and reach goes. 5 inches of reach on Kimball and 4 inches of height. So yeah, I think he's a more technical guy. He probably hits harder than Kimball. This is going to be a slugfest while it lasts, though, so give me Reyes by knockout in round number 1. Moving on to the welterweight, Sabah the Problem Homasi taking on Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Homasi has not fought since his August 2016 debut loss to Tim the Dirty Bird Means. That was before the seemingly, it seems like Tim Means is sort of on the way down a little bit. But that Tim Means was definitely a problem. Not as much as Sabah Homasi, despite his nickname. Razak Al Hassan is coming off his first debut loss to it was a Russian. Omari Akhmedov. Yes, Omari Akhmedov. Jesus.
Omari Akhmedov. Jesus.
It shouldn't even be a hard one to say, but I'm going to leave it there. Jed, you like Razak Al Hassan or Sabah Homasi?
Well, I want it to be known, in case y'all forgot, I actually was the lone MMA media member to score the Abdul Razak Al Hassan fight for Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Everybody else had Omari Akhmedov winning. Many, if not most, had a 30-27 for Akhmedov. I gave 2 of the rounds.
How did I have it?
To Al Hassan. Let's see how you had it. 30-27 Akhmedov. A couple of people gave Al Hassan 1 round. I gave him 2. I don't care. I'm standing by a decision. I thought that those were useless takedowns that didn't do shit, and that Al Hassan landed the better, more effective strikes. I think he gets a bad rap. I had zero understanding of the line in this fight. It's not like either of these guys are super great fighters, but like, I don't know. Like Al Hassan beat Charlie Ward, who's like a better fighter than, I don't even know anybody that Sabah Homasi's fought. Like, it's not that Charlie Ward's a great fighter.
Super short guy. He's like 44 years old in Titan.
Jorge Batina.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I just don't really get why the line here is as wide as this. Like, oh wait, Sabah Homasi is the underdog. Okay, that makes all the sense in the world.
What were you looking at?
I don't know. Somehow I thought the line was flipped, and I was like, this makes no sense. Al Hassan should absolutely win this fight. I'm baffled. But no, that's okay. Wow, I feel way better. Yeah, give me Abdul Razak Al Hassan, because I don't believe much in Sabah Homasi.
You were trying to, you saw that, you're trying to think, am I missing something? Is there
no, I was seriously super confused. It's like, this is fucking weird. Now it makes way more sense. Yeah, Al Hassan all damn day.
Yeah, Sabah Homasi's been knocked out quite a bit in his MMA career. The only time that Al Hassan lost was when he got taken down a few times by Omari Akhmedov. Sabah Homasi looks for takedowns, but
he didn't lose that fight. I refuse.
Whatever you say, I checked too. I scored
30-27
Akhmedov. I'm guessing with seeing that 14 out of Jed scored it. for Akhmedov that Akhmedov probably won. I have to rewatch it at some point. No, if it makes you feel better, I was the only person that thought Dan Kelly won a 30-27 over Rashad Evans. So if that makes you feel any better, then there you go. So I won't give you a hard time. But
Jed loves scoring fights in really terrible ways.
I love having weird cards.
I kind of purposely scored.
You give people 10-8 rounds because you think they should have had a point taken away, and that's actually kind of genius, but it's still hilarious.
Look, because they should. That's a whole different.
You scored Holly Holm versus Jermaine Durandamy like 50-40 for Holly Holm or something.
I had Jermaine winning 2 of the rounds, but I also had her losing 2 points.
Well, there you go.
Because she should have lost 2 fucking points. That's not my fault. Like
cracking up.
I'm like,
I'm sorry, Mike. I start laughing sometimes.
You can go. MMA Fighting had a piece up like last week talking to Mark Goddard, who I think is probably actually the best ref working in MMA currently.
You just call him Gonard like McGregor did?
Mark
Goddard.
Goddard, whatever. Same fucking concept.
I don't know.
I say Mark Goddard because I think Mark Goddard is the best ref.
Mark Goddard, Mark Goddard, whatever you want to call it.
No, the last 2 are terrible. Don't say that ever again.
I don't care. I think he's probably the best ref currently working in the game, but he explains why refs don't take points, and his answer is basically like, because then we feel bad. Like, that's honestly his actual answer is like, well, in a 3-round fight, taking a point really like plays a really big role, so we don't do it, despite the fact that these people broke the rules. And so he like straight up says, unless you keep doing it, nobody's going to take a point. So he told every fighter out there, like, cheat. We're not going to call it until like 3 or 4 times in. The first one definitely free. The first couple probably free. And that's really stupid. That's just a really stupid way to approach things. You should penalize fighters every time they foul. So I take, especially when there are fouls that affect the outcome of the fight. And they're like, if you want to argue that like a kick in the groin and the 5-minute recovery time doesn't affect the fight, okay. But if you want to argue that Jermaine Durandamy jawing Holly Holm well after the bell fucking twice doesn't merit a point being taken away, you're insane. That's my I'm off my soapbox. Al Hassan, nice.
Okay, so we're all going Al Hassan. You went in West, right? I don't remember if you broke it down or not, but probably not needed. He's gonna win this fight. He's gonna knock out Saba Humasi. Humasi, I don't know how great he is. He entered the UFC with an 11-5 record. Like, that's not a good record to go into the octagon with for the first time. Moved to 11-6 with the TKO loss to Tim Means. No shame in that. But those other 5 losses, don't know who they're to, but probably a bit of shame in that. Razak Al Hassan, I don't know he's as great as some people thought before the Omari, whatever his name is, Akhmedov fight. But I think Humasi doesn't have good enough chin to go 3 rounds. If he's able to get, weather the storm, maybe, because Al Hassan doesn't have a great gas tank. But, Humasi is a bit gritty. Maybe he can look for takedowns. I don't know. He's going to stand and he's going to get knocked out. Let's be serious. Abdul Razak Al Hassan knockout in round number 2. Moving on. Oh, my God. The featured Fight Pass prelim. Don't know why the hell this is UFC fight. Amanda Cooper taking on Angela Magana.
I don't know why.
Left because this fight is so just stupid.
I just don't understand why I just don't understand why Angela Magana still is employed by the UFC. Aside from the fact that she literally has not won a fight since 2011. It is 6 years. 6 years since she has won a fight.
They need to do, after Amanda Bobby Cooper wins this fight, they need to do Angela Magana versus Colin Curran.
I mean, they need to cut both of them and let that happen on some regional busted ass show. It has been 6 years since Angela Magana won a fight. Her last fight was in the Colorado region. Her last win.
Let's not spend that much time talking about this. We have better things to talk about.
I think she's actually kind of interesting in a lot of ways because she's fought mostly good competition over the last 6 years. Like, it's not a huge dip that she's lost. Like, Amanda Cooper is the worst fighter she's fought in quite a while, but Amanda Cooper is still going to be good enough to win. The last thing I'll say is Angela Magana is an interesting person in that she's a great example of how you can be a shit person and still do good things. She lives in Puerto Rico, has done a lot to try and like bring attention to the fact that Puerto Rico, like half the island still without power after the hurricane, tried to raise money, but the way she did it, it's a long, complicated story. What ends up that she did it in like the douchiest, worst kind of way possible that you can possibly do, like a good thing. She's a horrible person, and it baffles me that she ever beat Barb Honchak or Jessica Aguilar. That is just, it's astonishing to me because she's lost to every other good fighter she's ever faced. Amanda Cooper, not a great fighter, better than Angela Magana, who hasn't won in half a decade.
I just want to say that people must love Amanda Cooper or Magana because the most people are watching right now than any other moment in the show. We're currently at 8 viewers, now just dropped to 7. I guess they don't like me talking. But we've been at like 1 or 2 all night, and it just boosted now that we started talking about Angela freaking Magana. But yeah, I'll let Wes go after this just because I don't care about this fight. I'll go Cooper. Neither good fighters, neither UFC caliber, but one's better than the other, and that would be ABC.
These two are probably the worst two. I don't know. Wait, am I wrong? Are these the two worst strawweights in the UFC?
No, because we're about to get an influx of people who can't fight for shit.
Okay, yeah. True. Very true. But then again, they are flyweights. So
and Colin Curran is still in the UFC as of right now.
Colin Curran.
She's strawweight, right?
She probably beats.
Yeah.
Oh my god, she's awful.
Maybe.
Oh my god. Well, those three are definitely the worst fighters I've ever seen.
I think West versus Colin Curran is a pretty competitive fight.
There's a lot of
hopefully I can beat her
on here.
We'll see.
There's a lot of bad fighters going on here.
So you going Cooper?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the best summation of this fight. Yeah, fuck it.
It's literally
I guess.
It's like, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's like the two worst college football teams. Like if you pair them up, they're like 0-11 and 0-12, and matching them up and expecting to see a game that's unbelievable, which could happen. But I don't care.
I respect your honesty, honestly.
These two are god awful. Oh my god!
Analysis from all three of us on this fight.
Hey Nick, how tall are you?
Like half an inch off 6 feet.
Yeah, you are pretty tall. Never mind. You probably beat him up pretty bad.
I don't know.
I would not go that far.
I don't know. Well, I don't know. I mean,
he doesn't win fights all the time.
I mean,
God.
At
least we start getting into good fights now, though.
But before that, Jed, I'm gonna say you're like 5'9.5" to 5'10".
Yeah, that's right around correct.
And Wes, I'm gonna say is like 5'6", 5'7",
5'8".
Okay. I'm pretty good with that.
By the way, Magana beat freaking Barb Honchak. That's pretty awful.
She beat Barb Honchak and Jessica Aguilar. Now, granted, she also lost at Jessica Aguilar twice.
Okay, so okay, whatever. Who cares? Cooper's gonna win, and we don't need to speak of Magana ever again. Moving on to another women's fight, but this fight is 10 times better. Actually, a pretty fun fight.
Really fun.
Yeah, we used to give Felice Herrig a lot of crap, but she's actually turned into a pretty good fighter. Like, she's not bad at all. She's taken on Courtney Casey, who I think is very underrated for the division. So fun fight here. Number 9 versus number 11 at strawweight. Herrig Casey. Who do you like, Jed?
Man, this one is like a really close fight because both of them have just looked so much better lately. Like that's kind of the thing here is Herrig used to get a lot of shit because she was not great, but like aside from the Paige Van Zandt loss, which if they refought today, I think she kind of handles Van Zandt. Like she has been on quite the run coming out of the TUF house. Granted, not like the beating Kaylin Curran, we just established, not a huge win, but Justine Kish, solid win. Alexa Grasso, real solid win. Everybody pegged Grasso to win that fight, and big favorite coming in here against Courtney Casey, coming off the biggest win of her career, just beating Jessica Aguilar by decision, and having a competitive, if deserving, loss to Claudia Gadelha before that. It's just really close to me. On the feet, I think Courtney Casey's got the advantage. I just think she throws a lot more volume. works at a much quicker pace than Felice Herrig. For Herrig to win, she's got to work takedowns. I think she can, though. Courtney Casey has not proven to be a super good defender of takedowns. I know Claudia Gadelha is Claudia Gadelha. That's a whole different kettle of fish than Felice Herrig, but she got Casey down with relative ease often. So I think that the wrestling plays a bit of a factor here. I'm having a hard time picking. I wish I knew who you guys were going to pick so I could just go the opposite way just to be contrarian. I am going to go with Felice Herrig. I just think she's looked a little better lately, and I think the wrestling's enough to make it a difference. I will be in no way surprised if Courtney Casey's able to keep it on the feet enough and work enough of a pressure boxing game or not pressure boxing game, but a volume boxing game to have the success here. But, her last win against Jessica Aguilar, a little less impressive because she was just so much bigger than Aguilar. She used that to her advantage. She is not going to have that same advantage here against Felice Herrig. I think Herrig can force the takedowns. Give me Herrig in a really fun competitive decision.
Yeah, I think this could be a pretty fun fight. When it comes down to my pick, though, I'm going to go Felice Herrig. I think Felice Herrig, first off, is the better starter of the two, which is kind of weird to say, but for some reason she's just I feel like sometimes her best moments come early on in the fights, and we saw that with Kaylin Curran. Same could be said for Courtney Casey, but she really slows down as the fights go on. And from what I remember, I feel like Claudia Gadelha pretty much handed her a 10-8 in the last round of that fight. Seo Hiham came back and took the last 2 rounds of that fight, and Joanne Calderwood, Casey started really strong, but the last 2 rounds, Calderwood was just able to take advantage with both striking and I guess some of the clinch work. I really think that if this fight goes past the first round, it's all Felice Herrig's game. I think Herrig is going to be able to possibly take this one. I think you mentioned, Jed, the wrestling. I think that could definitely play a factor too because Casey does not have the best takedown defense, and she's not the best getting up from being on her back, but she definitely has a good arm bar. We saw her throw it up in the Randa Marcos fight. So she does have some pretty good skills off her back, but tried it a couple times against Gadelha. But I do think that Felice Herrig can avoid any kind of problems like that and get a decision victory here. So I'm going to take Felice Herrig 29-28 with one judge, 230-27s for the others.
Close fight. I'm going to disagree for the first time for UFC 218. Give me Courtney Cast Iron Casey here. I've been impressed with both fighters as of late. Herrig, especially in that fight with oh my God, why do I always do this? The Invicta, Alexa Grasso. That was a really impressive win. One I didn't see coming. A lot of people did not see coming, including probably all 3 of us. I don't remember how we saw that going on before the battle, but I would assume we picked Grasso there. She looked good against Kish. Not a bad performance at all back in June. Casey, though. Casey, I think the biggest factor, the biggest difference is she's a finisher. I know she didn't get a finish in her last fight, but her last 2 wins before the win over Aguilar, which, Aguilar is a decent fighter, tough to finish, were submissions over Randa Marcos and a TKO over Christina Stansu. I don't think much of Christina Stansu, but Randa Marcos, submitting her round number 1, that's a big win. Losing to Claudia Gadelha, not inside the distance, that's a win, and we don't really need to look at Courtney Casey's fights before Seo Hiham and Joanne Calderwood back in 2015. She's miles better than that now, and she'd probably beat both Calderwood and Ham today. And both those were fun fights, fun night for both. So she's racked up a bit of bonus money. I think the finishing ability is the biggest factor here. Herrig could work takedowns, but Casey's the better striker. I think she has a wrestling game enough of her own where she'll be able to defend the takedowns. I think both fighters are super strong for the division for strawweight and both rather big, Casey especially. I think Casey's ever so slightly stronger, and I think that helps her as well, just defend the takedowns and keep this one on the street, on the feet. So give me cast iron. Give me Courtney Casey. I think it'll be competitive, but I like her by unanimous decision. Mostly just working the boxing on the feet, where Herrig lacks a bit in this fight compared to her opponent. So give me Courtney Casey, unanimous decision. Moving on, we have a super fun lightweight matchup that, we have a lot of great fights on this card, but this is one to, to watch. No one's really talking about it because we have so many other great fights, but David Tamer from Sweden taking on Drakkar Klose from the US of A. Got 6-1 versus 8-0-1. Tamer is coming off a upset win over Lando Venata. Klose is coming off an upset win over Mark Diakiese. Both guys have looked better than expected odds-wise, and both guys could go far, I think. Jed, you like Tamer or Klose?
I'm very high on David Tamer. I picked him to beat Lando Venata. I had him on that upset because I think a lot of him as a prospect, as a technician. I just think he has a really delightful striking game and very good takedown defense, and those two things complement each other very well. And I see big things in his future here. I think Drakkar Klose is also good, but frankly, in all honesty, I believe beating Lando Venata means a lot more to me than beating Mark Diakiese. And I thought Tamer more clearly beat Lando Venata than Klose beat Diakiese. Diakiese is going to be good. He's one of those guys who has a ton of hype around him, but whose game is still really raw in parts, and Klose has a more refined game and was able to take advantage of kind of those openings, whereas Lando Venata has a much more refined game than Mark Diakiese. It's a much better fighter than Mark Diakiese, and he just couldn't do anything that he wanted to do against David Tamer, who's just better than him. Straightforward enough for me. I don't think Drakkar Klose can. I think on the feet, Tamer's volume, power, technique all give him a pretty clear edge there, and I don't think Klose can successfully take him down. So David Tamer is going to win 3 rounds, just kickboxing Drakkar Klose's ears off.
Yeah, David Tamer, I think, is definitely going to get the job done here. I like his unorthodox style on the feet. I agree with Jed. I think that he's definitely a guy to watch out for. And that's nothing against Drakkar Klose. He's definitely a solid athlete, but I think the fight with Mark Diakiese could have gone a lot different. And I'm not saying this again because the kick that what I recall was in the first round, Diakiese got kicked with by one of Klose's right kicks, and it kind of took out the lead leg that Diakiese had, which I think in the stance that he was in was his left, so he was standing orthodox. But as the fight went on, Diakiese almost came back, and I feel like if it was a 5-round fight or if they were fighting to a finish, Diakiese could have been able to get a finish because he started to take over as the fight went on. I think David Tamer is definitely going to have the better cardio as the fight goes on. I think Diakiese could have definitely held his own in the fight with Drakkar Klose had that kick not landed in the fight. But then again, of course, it's a finish, and I don't want to take anything away from it. But I do think overall David Tamer's a better athlete. I think he's better skilled in pretty much just a little bit in almost every department. Maybe not so much the wrestling. Klose is pretty good at being able to get takedowns and try to work for them in clinch positions. But he did that against Devin Powell, and Devin Powell is not the greatest mixed martial artist in the world. But kind of going off that too, I think David Tamer has fought some of the better competition. I think he'll be able to get the job done. So I'm going to take David Tamer. Maybe a stoppage in there, like second or third round. I think maybe he could be the first guy to stop Drakkar Klose due to more so fatigue, maybe not being able to just starch him. But I think that David Tamer is definitely going to get the job done either by that or a decision.
Yeah, give me David Tamer here. Close fight, competitive, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. But David Tamer's just better on his feet. He's quite unorthodox. He's really crafty on the feet, and we saw that against Lando Venata. And after that Venata fight, like I didn't know too much about Tamer, but I was high on Lando Venata going in. Tamer did good work against him. I think Tamer can go far in the sport. In the lightweight division, despite how stacked it is. Drakkar Klose, he's undefeated. He hasn't looked as good. I mean, he's looked good because he's pulling off the upsets, but especially in his last fight, Diakiese. But just something about his game, like he's not as good. Tamer is a bit more technical on the feet. He probably hits a little harder too. Drakkar Klose, he's crafty as well. The leg kicks are good. And working at the MMA lab, like that's good too. Like he, working with John Crouch, good coach, good training partners there. But I think he needs to work takedowns here. I'm not so sure he'll be able to. I think this will be a stand-up fight, and I think Teemer's just better on the feet. So kind of simple pick. I like Teemer by unanimous decision for that reason. But I think, despite how quick I broke it down, I think, this deserves a watch. This is a great fight. No one's talking about it. I think it'll be fun, though. Next up, we got Alex Cowboy Oliveira taking on Yancy Medeiros. We got Brazil versus Hawaii. Jed, do you like the favorite here, Cowboy Oliveira, or do you think Medeiros can pull off an upset?
I think Yancy Medeiros could pull off an upset because something about Alex Oliveira's game has always bothered me a little bit. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but the golf and athleticism here is pretty massive. Alex Oliveira is an exceptional athlete, and Yancy Medeiros, every time he's fought an exceptional athlete, he has lost to an exceptional athlete. Francisco Trinaldo and Dustin Poirier both handled him fairly efficaciously, and basically that's kind of, I just think, the story of the fight. Like Yancy Medeiros, I envision this going. Yancy Medeiros tries to put a lot of pressure on him early, and Alex Oliveira lands a big punch and or maybe hits a duck under takedown. Yancy Medeiros has a pretty solid takedown defense in general, but Oliveira just has so much power. I think just that gulf and physicality is enough to make up the difference for me. Give me Alex Oliveira with a stoppage in the first half of the fight.
I am leaning the same way as you. I'm going Alex Oliveira in this one. One of the bigger reasons, and you kind of mentioned it a little bit, but I don't think you said it. Yancy Medeiros, I don't trust his chin 100%. He's very susceptible to taking damage, even in the fights that he wins. Sean Spencer really didn't do a whole lot in that one, but Eric Silva did land some decent punches. Francisco Trinaldo almost had him unconscious numerous times in that fight, but Medeiros held his own. Dustin Poirier took him out with a body kick, not so much with strikes to the head, of course. But Tom McDessie landed his share of punches in that one, too. It's just, I don't know if I can trust Yancy Medeiros' chin. Alex Oliveira hits like a freaking freight train if he's able to connect on you. And sometimes he just has this unorthodox kind of style that's not too unorthodox, but somehow he's just able to use that reach. That's not really too substantial, I don't think. It's 77 inches up against 75.5 for Medeiros, but Oliveira utilizes his reach sometimes so well. I mean, I feel like he could go up against somebody that has a 79 or 80-inch reach, and Oliveira is just able to utilize it a lot better than the opponent is. And Oliveira's been able to get victories like that. Will Brooks on there by stoppage. Tim Means, of course, by second-round submission. And the first fight, I mean, he looked like he was kind of struggling. Second fight came back and just tore Tim Means apart. Ryan LaFleur looked fantastic in that fight and was able to give Ryan LaFleur his second loss, but I think his only loss by knockout. I'm going to go Alex Oliveira. You said first half of the fight. I was leaning that way, but I went second round. I think the first round could be pretty entertaining, but I think that Oliveira is just the better athlete, kind of as you mentioned, and can get the job done here. Unless Medeiros, maybe he can pull something out of his head, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to stop Oliveira by strikes. I feel like that's really his biggest weapon and only weapon, but I don't know. We'll have to see. I think it could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, this will be an interesting fight. I like Alex Oliveira here as well. If we think about it, Oliveira and Yancy Medeiros are kind of similar. Both guys are somewhat well-rounded. Oliveira, both guys are decent on the feet. Medeiros is a lot more scrappy than Oliveira, but Oliveira's hits harder. He is a bit more technical, and he is a better athlete. And I think those are what sort of puts him apart from Medeiros. Medeiros has a good chin, but he can be knocked out. I think there's actually a possibility of that happening. If we're going to see anyone winning the grappling exchanges, it's probably going to be Oliveira. So for the most part, it's going to be one-way traffic for Oliveira, but Medeiros hanging in there tough, trying to work something, whether it's, a submission off his back or like a come-from-behind knockout blow. But I think Oliveira eventually gets him out of there. Give me ground and pound TKO in round number, let's say 3. Let's make it interesting. Next up, we got the FS1 prelims. Or Wes, are you heading out? Or
I'll do one more.
All right. FS1 prelims, the main event. if you want to call it that. Charles Oliveira taking on Paul the Irish Dragon Felder in a lightweight battle. I'm happy to see that Do Bronx is staying at 155 pounds, at least for now. I know after his win over his last victory, forget
Will Brooks.
Was it Will Brooks?
Yep.
I want to see.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
He pretty much just took him down twice. He took him down once, stood up, took him down again, and choked him out.
Yep.
For some reason, I remember seeing him fight sooner than April, but after that fight, he wanted to drop back down. It seems like the plans have changed. Jed, you like Charles Do Bronx Oliveira or Paul the Irish Dragon Felder?
I don't have a goddamn clue. I've been wrestling with this one because I apparently just have no idea what Paul Felder's ever going to do. Like, I just can't ever, like, I think I picked Stevie Ray to beat him. He beat Stevie Ray. I definitely picked him to beat Alex Ricci because, come on. I picked him to beat Francisco Trinaldo because that was, like, he had some, like, he came into the UFC and I was really high on him. I liked his game a lot. Picked up a win over Justin Sago, and then Danny Castillo knocked him out. And then after the Castillo thing, I was like, all right, Paul Felder's going to be good. Lost to Edson Barboza, who's going to be your UFC champion in 2018, despite the fact that he's also going to lose to Khabib at the end of the year. I'm not sure how this works exactly, but I've been on the Edson Barboza train for so long at this point, despite the fact that I have been on the Khabib train forever. I somehow think they're both going to be your lightweight champions next year.
I love that.
Like losing to Edson Barboza, which is just stylistic kryptonite. That's not that bad. Losing to Ross Pearson, I don't remember that fight at all. It was a split decision. I just can't. Like, he should never have lost to Ross Pearson, split or otherwise. Beat Darren Cruikshank, beat Josh Berkman, and then I was back on it. Like, okay, maybe he just sort of like Barboza was bad, and then the Pearson was an off day, and then he lost Francisco Trinaldo. Not like a bad loss. Massaran Duba, obviously, really good fighter, but I have just had a really tough time kind of pegging down Paul Felder. I'm gonna go with him. On the feet, I think he's just better. He's got more skill than Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira is one of those guys who's a really dynamic grappler, despite the fact that he's been tapped out a lot. His grappling game is really tricky and funky, and like he tapped Nick Lentz, which is an accomplishment, you know. But I think that Paul Felder can mostly negate that. He does not get taken down all that often. I mean, people have been able to do it. Massaran Duba, but like Massaran Duba, who is Massaran Duba, only got one. You know, I don't know. Like if Charles Oliveira can wrestle a lot, then he's going to win. If he can't, then he's going to lose. I think that's pretty straightforward. I'm basically just saying that I think Paul Felder can keep it on the feet enough. We'll see.
Yeah, I've been back and forth on this one too, just like you, and I feel like this is one of the harder fights to call on the card. Were you going to add something?
Who's the underdog?
Oliveira opened as the dog, but now he is a very slight favorite. It is -115. Oliveira -105. Paul Felder.
You can get underdog. You can get both of them as underdogs at various books. That's weird.
Why would Barboza be the underdog?
Not Barboza, Oliveira.
Or Oliveira, shoot.
He's tired.
I was saying Barboza because I was looking at Paul Felder's record.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, well, I guess I can see it. Either way, it's a tough one to call because I feel like it's weird to say, but Charles Oliveira, I mean, he's always had this striking game that is like very underratedly decent. And I feel like it's not really appreciated enough just because he always ends up looking for the submissions and ends of his fights. And as of recently, he gets submitted, which is something we don't really see a lot of. I don't think Paul Felder is going to be able to submit Charles Oliveira ever, pretty much in his mixed martial arts career. I was surprised that he submitted Darren Cruikshank, even though Cruikshank has awful submission defense. But I don't think Felder's going to get the job done. But like you, Jed, I've always struggled picking Paul Felder fights, especially the Stevie Ray one. I didn't pick him in that. I thought Stevie Ray was going to be able to get the job, and he starched him. I think I picked the Trinaldo one right. I actually think I picked Bergman over Paul Felder, which was a pretty bad pick. But then again, I thought Bergman kind of hung in there. I take this back. I actually picked Ross Pearson over Paul Felder, and Ross Pearson beat him. And Ross Pearson shouldn't beat anybody, but I only picked Ross Pearson because I love him.
He's a weird-ass dude, man. He's a weird-ass fighter.
I don't get it, man.
Because he has a lot of potential. I think it is. 'Cause I think that like you think that like he shows flashes where he's got a really technically diverse, layered striking game. And you think, shit, that guy should be way better. And then he just brain farts and like loses to fucking Ross Pearson.
And you think that he could definitely beat a guy like Charles Oliveira, but man, Oliveira's striking.
He might just get tapped instantly.
God,
it's fucking weird. It's a weird ass fight.
I mean, Oliveira could literally do exactly what he did to Will Brooks. He could go in there, take him down, grab his neck, and it's over in a minute. Or Oliveira will struggle, and Paul Felder will get a stoppage, and Oliveira will get a little pain in his neck. The more we're talking about this, I just can't make up my mind. So I had Charles Oliveira at first, ended up switching to Paul Felder by a third-round knockout. Because I was like, maybe he can get a late stoppage in there. But I'm tempted to go. Who did you pick, Jed?
I picked Felder, but I don't feel super confident in it.
I could go Oliveira to make it interesting, but
you don't know what I'm gonna do.
Well, you're definitely gonna pick one of the two, so. Well, I'll go Felder just in case Nick leaves. Oliveira, he'll probably be on his own island, or he'll join us. But
those are the two options. Maybe I'll really mix up and see a draw or a no contest.
A draw.
Nick, did you pick Oliveira, Cowboy Oliveira?
I
just want to make sure.
I'm gonna go Paul Felder, and that's only because that's what my second instinct reaction was, and I really don't like changing a third time. I feel like changing a third time is definitely a no. The first time I was already hated it enough. I'll stick with Paul Felder. I'll sink with him if he sinks. I'll swim with him if he swims. I did talk to him in Norfolk, and I did not talk to Charles Oliveira, partially for the reason he wasn't there. But because of that, I'll pick Paul Felder.
There in Norfolk.
It makes more sense, right? Yeah. I'll pick Paul Felder. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, he's going to win.
Because it seemed like all you guys were doing is seeing like how bad we are at picking Paul Felder fights. I picked Stevie Ray against him, so I'm just gonna go through this, in my head. Alex Ricci, I don't even remember that fight happening, but I must have picked Felder. Trinaldo, I picked Trinaldo. I picked Felder against Berkman, picked Felder against Cruikshank, picked Felder against Pearson, picked Barboza against Felder, and didn't know who Felder was when he fought Castillo, so I picked Castillo. And that's that. So yeah, he's a weird guy. Like sometimes he goes out there and looks like one of the better lightweights on the planet, and other times he, craps the bed and loses by decision to Ross Pearson. I feel like you're
this fight.
Oh, dude, I don't know if you guys paid attention because I did not see this until just earlier. Sorry, this is completely unrelated. It's on the Bellator game plan that you guys refuse to give a shit about. Alexis Dufresne missed weight.
Yes, by 10 pounds or something.
Something heroic, just terribly awful. It's
awesome. The Bellator card's good.
Yeah, like I said, is a great card.
But Dufresne, as I've mentioned, she's missed weight the past 5 fights in a row. She is terrible.
Hold on. I'm looking at this. 1 miss, 2 miss, 3 miss, 4 misses in a row.
That is god awful.
Plus this last one is 5.
What's she fighting at? 145?
I don't even know what the fight.
She's 135.
So 5 fights in a row, and she withdrew from the Amanda Bell fight at Bellator 181. I don't know why that.
Wait, no, like the fight tomorrow. What weight's it at? Supposed to be.
Not. I don't know. I have no idea. Hold on. I'll check.
I know she was a bantamweight, but considering all her weight misses, I mean, maybe she's now blown up featherweight. Whatever. We're at 2 hours, and we still have a whole pay-per-view main card. That's fantastic to talk about. Who gives a crap about Alexis Dufresne? Let's put her in with Magana and Cooper. So, anyways, Paul Felder, Charles Oliveira. Not confident, but actually think I'm not I wasn't flipping back and forth. Give me Charles Oliveira. I'm on the island on my own. I think this is a pretty typical Charles Oliveira fight.
If double Oliveira pick.
Yeah, so if this is standing, Paul Felder obviously wins and might even knock Oliveira out, but on the ground, Oliveira eats him alive. So give me Oliveira by submission in round number 1. I think he takes Felder down into deep water, or not into deep waters, but into waters where Felder is not comfortable whatsoever against a great grappler like Oliveira. The guy is super good at getting on your back and choking you out. Very effective on the mat. So give me Charles Oliveira do Bronx by submission in round number 1.
You're probably right.
Wes, before you dip out, just say
I was going to say the same thing. Go through your main card picks so everybody knows, and then all your other
bonuses
stuff.
in your DraftKings. Just
Oliveira's going to choke out Felder, and I'm going to stick with Felder.
You swapping?
Nah, I'm going to stick with Felder, but he's going to lose. I know he's going to get committed now.
This is what I'm talking about. He can win and he can't lose because he says, okay, so Felder won. I picked him.
Oh, whichever way you pick, he's going to do the opposite of. Like that. Just
Oliveira is going to choke out Paul Felder in the first round, but I will be picking Paul Felder because
then Oliveira is going to choke him out early. Nice. Fire off all your picks, and I'll take it down right now.
I'm sorry. I'm going. So first fight I think is really tough. The Tisha Torres Michelle Waterson fight, but in the end I went with Waterson by decision. Second fight I'm taking Justin Gaethje, second round TKO over Eddie Alvarez. That should be a pretty fun one. If it gets past the first round. I'm taking Henry Cejudo over Sergio Pettis. Could be pretty entertaining as well. Maybe a low-key fight of the night contender. I feel like that could definitely sneak its way in there and is definitely being overlooked. Alistair Overeem, Francis Ngannou. I'm taking Ngannou. Sorry, poor Nicholas, but Ngannou is going to knock out Alistair Overeem in the first round. And I'm going to take Holloway by a fourth-round stoppage a little bit later. I think this one will definitely be a little more competitive if Aldo's going to be able to utilize that kicking game he usually does. So those are my picks for the main card. I'll go ahead and shoot my DraftKings.
Okay.
So my DraftKings lineup, I ended up using every dollar. The riskiest one, of course, on the team, I've got Jose Aldo. But he was extremely cheap. I felt like that would definitely be something to utilize. Then I went Justin Gaethje, Felice Herrig, Francis Ngannou, a risky one, Michelle Waterson, but a pretty confident one, Dominic Reyes.
Not a bad-looking team there.
Yeah, I think Aldo's definitely going to be the swayer in that one.
I
guess we'll have to see. I had to take a risk. I actually made 2 different lineups just to get an idea, but that's the one I wanted to go with. Pretty risky, but we'll see.
I'll do it 6,900. It's tough to pass that up, honestly.
It's not bad value.
Yeah.
And Aldo, we got to remember, Aldo definitely he had a moment there in the first round with Holloway, and also I thought won the second round too.
He won the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, I mean he looked pretty darn sharp, and then Holloway ended up dropping him and got the stoppage. But I mean, like if Aldo is able to utilize the kicking game like he didn't at least in the first fight, he definitely has a good shot in that fight. So the fact that he's so cheap on DraftKings, it's definitely I think worth picking up. I going to my performances. I am going fight of the night. I'll go the main event. I'll go Max Holloway, Jose Aldo. I think Alvarez Gaethje is a contender, but if that ends early, Tamer, then it won't get one. Tamer Close could be a good one, but Close could make it maybe a little boring if he tries to wrestle. Cejudo Pettis, low-key fight of the night contender. They're all pretty good fights. 2 performances. I'm going to give one to Francis Ngannou. If Alistair wins, he might get one. If Ngannou wins, he'll probably get one.
Overeem's not knocking. I mean, it's possible, but I'd be pretty surprised if Overeem starches Ngannou.
I know that's why. I know Ngannou's never been tested.
If Overeem wins, it probably is a decision. Just picking, a younger guy who less experienced. But if Ngannou wins, that's like 200 G's bonus or something.
If Ngannou knocks out Overeem, it's going to be vicious and deadly, and there's no way he's not going to get a performance.
And kind of sad.
Yeah. So Ngannou's definitely on there. Second one, I want to go Alex Oliveira, but I think I'm going to go Justin Gaethje just because I feel like it's going to be a crazy fight.
Go Paul Felder. Go all in, Paul Felder.
Paul Felder. Yeah, somebody. I should get Paul Felder. I should get Charles Oliveira. I'm not picking him.
Choose. Fight night, Paul Felder, Charles Oliveira.
I'll take Justin Gaethje. Gaethje and Ngannou as my 2 performances. Holloway, Aldo as my fight of the night. And my underdog pick, if I even have one.
Michelle Waterson is your only underdog.
There she is.
So is that going to be your underdog pick?
That's my underdog pick.
DraftKings, hurry.
Got it.
He already did. He sent his DraftKings
first.
Did.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm tired.
Wes, give it a sign off.
All right. Yeah, sorry, guys. I got to peace out because I do have a very busy day tomorrow. Starting off with an exam a little later in the day, but I got to study for that. Early 8:30 class. Huh?
I thought you were going to say my busy day starts at 5 o'clock with TUF finale 26. Can't wait.
Oh, God.
Rest of that.
Yeah, the Ultimate Fighter 26 finale is tomorrow night. Completely forgot about that outstanding card. Can't wait to watch that, starting with
skipping school to
whatever the first
emotionally prepare for the great fights.
All I know is that Emily Whitaker's in the first fight, and I'm single.
Emily
Besides
Whitaker.
that, you can follow me
on
Twitter.
Her name is Whitmire, by the way.
Whitmire.
I wish Robert.
What did I say, Whitaker?
Yeah, I wish Robert Whitaker's wife was fighting tomorrow. That'd be fantastic.
I say Whitaker. And also, my 12th grade physics teacher, her last name was Whitaker. So I get confused all the time. Emily Whitmire.
I don't think she scored knockouts all over the place though.
Wes, you've been trying to leave for a half hour.
I know, and I can never leave because these two love me so much, and I'm just a hoot and a holler. I'm so sorry.
If I could kick you off, I would boot you.
Yeah, I know. I'm not surprised.
Tell us where you can find so we can finish. Because you have an early day. I have to wake up at 8 a.m. and I still have to work tonight. So
oh, God. Well, okay, Jed and I both have to get up early, but I'm peacing out a little bit.
Well, I do too. I mean, I go to school, you know.
All right. Follow me on Twitter at AllThanMMA. If you don't, you're a loser. Find my writing at MMAsucker.com. If you don't, you're also a loser, and you're also a waste of my time. So please unsubscribe. No, I'm just kidding. All right, guys. I'm peacing out. I'm done messing around. I don't want to bother you all anymore, but we'll definitely catch up soon. Appreciate doing all the chat.
What's the card next week?
Fuck if I know, man. Who gives a shit?
I don't know. I'll probably be asleep. And for that reason, I'm out. Going to sleep.
Next week is Swanson Ortega.
That's
Swanson
fun.
Ortega? Yeah. I'm probably going to skip that one.
Wait,
you ain't going to skip it.
I'm not going to skip
Wait,
that
isn't Swanson Ortega in the peg?
No, that's
Robbie
Lawler.
Santos. That's
Robbie
right.
Lawler
okay. Whatever. Bye, Wes. Leave.
All right, guys. I'm going to leave.
Peace out.
Love you guys.
Nice.
Jesus Christ. That was fun.
Who are you picking, Michelle Waterson or Tisha Torres?
All right. Back to this card. Liam Hughes just wrote in Twitter chat or the YouTube chat, haha. Can't be more descriptive than that. Okay, this is a weird one. I see everybody on Tisha Torres. I'm leaning Michelle Waterson. I got to be honest. Tough fight, close fight. I think Torres is stronger. Maybe she gets takedowns. Waterson is undersized for the division, but we say Waterson's undersized. Yes, she's taller and has a reach advantage. Like Tisha Torres is very small for the division, so
she's thick though.
Yeah, she's very, as I said, she's very strong, and so that could come into play. Looking for takedowns. She probably, I don't know. No, I can't say she hits harder because she's had one finish in the UFC, and that was a submission, right?
Who are we talking about?
Fight? Tisha Torres. Yeah, she submitted Juliana Leem in July.
Yeah,
so
she's
never had a TQ win. I just like Waterson on the feet a little bit here. I think she's a bit crafty with her kicks as well. I think she just has more finishing capability here, and I think that's kind of she takes risks more than Torres does, and sometimes that doesn't pay off. Just in general, her fighting style a little easier to lose, but it's better if you come out the winner. We sort of saw that against Namajunas. She got, clipped badly and choked out, but, she wasn't trying to play it safe per se. I like Waterson here. I like her to pick apart Torres a little bit on the feet. If Torres wins, I won't be at all shocked. I feel like I'm missing something in Torres just because she's a 2-1 favorite. She's been bumped up by bettors. She opened like pretty small at minus 150 maybe, and now she's all the way up at minus 220 something. And so, yeah, I feel like I'm missing something, but I just can't quite pinpoint it. Like minus 225 or 255, that's kind of crazy. But yeah, for me, I'm going Watterson.
I mean, the reason she's been bumped up is that Tisha Torres has realistically never lost a fight in an actual cage. She lost a couple of bouts on the TUF to Carlos Esparza.
Well, no, she lost to Nami Yunus.
Yeah, but she didn't really lose that fight. I think I think she pretty obviously won that fight. I know that a lot of people gave the fight to Namajunas, but it seemed like they gave it to her based on kind of like a takedown that she didn't really do anything with. I think Torres won the last 2 rounds, and Namajunas probably took the first. I mean, a close fight, a competitive fight, but to me, that fight really should have gone to Tisha Torres. She should be unbeaten as a professional mixed martial artist. And Michelle Waterson has lost to a lot of people. Michelle Waterson, not really an atom weight. I think strawweight is actually a good weight for her, even though she is a little bit smaller for the division. I basically just kind of disagree with most of what you said there in general. I think Michelle Waterson is overrated as a striker. I know she is the karate hottie and has a karate background, and she is competent on her feet, but really where she makes her hay, the straw that stirs her drink for her, has been her grappling game. She's a very effective grappler, especially when she can control that. I don't think she can take down or grapple against Tisha Torres, and I think Tisha Torres's pressure boxing game is just going to give Michelle Waterson fits. I don't think she's got the footwork to stay away enough, and I just think Torres is going to. You're right about Tisha Torres not being a finisher. She is not that. I don't think that that's something that's ever really going to develop in her game, but Tisha Torres has beaten very good competition. Look at her wins are Paige Van Zant, Rose Namajunas, Felice Herrig, Angela Magana, Angela Hill, Jocelyn Jones Liebarger is okay, but Beck Rollins, Juliana Lima, these are all pretty quality wins. I just think she's better, just straight up. So I like Michelle Waterson. I'd be happy if she does win. I like Tisha Torres too, and I think that I just think she's better in most phases. I think she's a better athlete. I think she throws more volume, more consistent. I think she can take down Michelle Waterson. Michelle Waterson is not great off her back. It's just I agree with the odds where they are at here. I think Tisha Torres is going to win this handily. Not dominantly, but I think she wins at least 2, if not 3 full rounds, just by doing a little bit more. Give me Tisha Torres to be different. I think that this is the first time I'm picking somebody different than you two, so that's exciting.
Perhaps. People's main event time. This is the best fight on the card by a mile, and we still have some good fights to get to, obviously. More than good. Great fights. But Eddie Alvarez, the Underground King, former UFC lightweight champion, taking on former WSOF lightweight champion, the highlight himself, Justin Gaethje, number 4 versus number 5 in the best UFC division. That is, of course, 155 pounds. Absolute amazing matchup stylistically. Really could go either way. Who do you got? Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje?
I extremely disagree with that last statement. It could not go either way. Justin Gaethje is going to beat the ever-loving shit out of Eddie Alvarez. I think I had a moment on Twitter the other day where I went off from my established plan that Edson Barbosa was going to be the lightweight champion of the world, because I think there's a reasonable case that Justin Gaethje beats any lightweight that you put in front of him at this exact moment in time.
Well, I said that right after the Johnson fight.
Yeah, I think obviously that's up for debate. The way he fights means that people could beat him, but man, he is a stylistic fucking nightmare for Eddie Alvarez. Like, Eddie Alvarez, if Eddie Alvarez tried to play a stick and move game, I don't know what Eddie Alvarez is going to do. Like, that's just my end result here. Like, his best chance would be to somehow be disciplined enough for 15 minutes to work an effective stick and move game against Justin Gaethje, who has not allowed anybody to do that because he is one of, if not the best pressure fighters in MMA right now. His footwork, the way he forces the fight that he wants is incredibly effective. And so I don't think Eddie Alvarez has the capability of doing that if he wanted to. And he definitely doesn't have the mental ability to do it, because when he gets hit, then he lets the dog out, and then he's going to get in a fight that he can't fucking win. You try and get in a brawl with Justin Gaethje, and you're going to lose. Like, that's just it. Justin Gaethje is hittable. Eddie Alvarez hits hard. Justin Gaethje is also leather-bound tough, so it doesn't really matter. Like, Eddie Alvarez is not going to hit him with anything different than Michael Johnson was melting his face with, and we saw how effective that worked for Michael Johnson. Like, more to the point.
No, Gaethje was brought badly. Don't forget that.
He was never stopped because he's Justin Gaethje. Like, he was. I thought he was hurt. He was never at a point where Michael Johnson was going to stop him. And I don't think that that's going to happen. Like, Eddie Alvarez is a slow starter. Justin Gaethje is sure as shit not that. Eddie Alvarez, when he gets hit, starts brawling, and that's a bad look for him in this fight. Eddie Alvarez is super fucking hittable. And I don't want to be this guy, because everyone else that's been around the MMA game, like, as long as I have, they're reflexively like fanboys of Eddie Alvarez because of he's got great wins in his history. And, for such a long time, he wasn't in the UFC, and then he came in and he won the title. I have always thought much less of Eddie Alvarez as a fighter than everybody else has, always. And I think that I'm justified in that thought. And I think that this is terrible. Like, he gets hit so much, and he has a shit ton of toughness, so he can come back from the, like, getting jacked up like that. But he is not. Like, if he gets hit by Justin Gaethje, he's just fucked, because Justin Gaethje is going to pour on the pressure in a way that he's not going to be able to recover from or brawl his way out of. And if he tries to stick and move, Justin Gaethje is going to kick his legs off of his body. Like, he's just going to kick his legs off his body. I struggle to see, outside of him landing a really enormous punch and then somehow finishing Justin Gaethje, who is so stupidly, ridiculously tough, I can't see how he wins. And frankly, I think there are very few fighters at this point that I'd pick over Justin Gaethje. Maybe not anybody. I think Gaethje is the toughest fight that Khabib has in the division at this point. I think Gaethje is a really hard fight for Khabib. I like Conor could beat Gaethje. I'm not saying Conor can't. Definitely could. I think I'm picking Gaethje in that because Conor doesn't do super well with consistent pressure, and he's very open to leg kicks, both things that Justin Gaethje excels at. Granted, he might just land a left hand and fucking bolt Gaethje. Like, that's totally a viable thing. But I could see it looking a lot like Diaz's success against Conor. I think Gaethje fucks up Tony Ferguson. Like, straight up. I just think he fucks up Tony Ferguson. Edson Barbosa is the other fight that I think is very interesting, because Barbosa is one of the, like, I'm so high on Barbosa that it makes it tough for me, because I think Barbosa is probably the best striker if he's allowed to not, if he can keep improving his footwork and not just fold under pressure. But Gaethje's so good at pressuring that then that makes it a really interesting fight. I just think Justin Gaethje might be the best lightweight on the planet, and Eddie Alvarez is damn sure not. It's a horrible stylistic matchup. I think Gaethje's putting him in a box in the first round.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I'm not. I guess I see what you're saying about it not being as high on Eddie Alvarez. Like, I certainly understand that he hasn't looked like, other than you take out the RDA fight, and he hasn't looked that great in UFC. Like, the Gilbert Melendez fight could have gone either way. Pettis fight could have gone either way. And
he lost to Anthony Pettis.
I scored it for Alvarez. That's why I said it could have gone the other way. But I certainly don't, I don't think a Pettis scorecard is bad by any means whatsoever. And then he lost to Cerrone in his debut. And then Conor starched him, obviously, just tooled with him, picked him apart.
Dustin Poirier, too.
And the Dustin Poirier fight. He was well on his way to losing that until the no contest or whatever. I don't even remember what happened. It was the low blow right to Poirier or something?
I think it was a knee to the head.
Oh, okay. So anyways, yeah, I mean, I agree 100% with everything you said about Justin Gaethje. So I'm not going to repeat everything, but basically the gist of it is that this guy is the best pressure fighter in mixed martial arts today. And that alone makes him one of the best, if not the best, lightweights on the planet. He is not the most technical striker. He is not the best wrestler or the best grappler in the lightweight division. Never mind the UFC. But he is so goddamn tough. He turns every fight he's been in into his own and does what he wants. And he forces his opponent to do what he wants. And that is ultimately what leads to all of his opponents wilting under the pressure, collapsing, getting TKO'd, getting destroyed by the highlight. And that is what's going to happen on Saturday night. Eddie Alvarez, when he should, I guess, trying to work a wrestling game, stick and moves, that's like his two options. But you get into a brawl with Justin Gaethje, as you said, Jed, that is bad news. You're going to wake up unconscious. I think Gaethje can honestly chop out Alvarez down with leg kicks. I think this looks a lot like the Michael Johnson fight, minus the moment Johnson stunned Gaethje a little bit. I think Gaethje, I think this is more dominant for Gaethje than the Johnson fight was. I think this still has potential to be fight of the night, just because Alvarez will be trying. Like, he doesn't give up. He comes to fight. And if the dog is brought out of him, that is good as far as getting a bonus, because he'll throw and wing punches and eventually get clipped. But he'll be trying. He won't give up. It'll make it into a fun fight. But I don't see Alvarez having really any real success here. It might look like he's landing a few punches here and there, and that's great. But Gaethje's going to be landing the harder shots. He's going to be pressuring Alvarez until Alvarez cannot take it anymore. Eventually, Alvarez will. He's not going to quit, but he's going to wilt under the pressure, just like every other Gaethje opponent. Give me Justin Gaethje TKO in round number 2. Next up, we got a flyweight fight between number 2, Henry the Messenger Cejudo, and number 4, Sergio Pettis. This fight was, of course, supposed to happen back at UFC 211 in May of this year. It fell apart. I want to say Pettis injury. I totally forget, though. Could be wrong on that. Cejudo Pettis, really fun fight at 125 pounds. Could determine the next title challenger, especially if Pettis pulls off the upset, because he's never fought for the title Cejudo has, and I think they'd certainly make DJ versus Pettis if he wins. But he's got a big task ahead of him, a tough fight in Henry Cejudo. Who walks away the winner?
Give me Henry Cejudo. Sergio Pettis has been improving dramatically, looking way better, but there's a reason. Yeah, exactly. There's a reason everybody thought Henry Cejudo was potentially an all-time great. Talking an Olympic gold medalist who has developed a very good boxing game already. He is still early in his mixed martial arts career, which is wild when you think about it. I'm pulling this up right now, but Cejudo started his MMA career in 2013, which means he's still like several years away from being kind of his peak start point. Like, Sergio Pettis started his career in 2011. So Cejudo's younger in the game with a much higher level of athleticism than Sergio Pettis is bringing. If Sergio Pettis can keep Henry Cejudo standing, I still think Henry Cejudo might be able to win. Just straight kickboxing, just out kickboxing Sergio Pettis. I think Henry Cejudo definitely beat Joseph Benavidez, got robbed there. He lost to Demetrius Johnson, who's one of the 3 best fighters in the history of ever. So, and, not a big deal there. I think that Cejudo is by far the most interesting test for Johnson if he gets another year or two to develop. And is likely the kind of future title holder, especially if Johnson ever vacates, moves up in weight or whatnot, retires. I just think he's the best guy not named Demetrius Johnson right now. I hope he gets back to fight Demetrius Johnson in a year or two, so he can have some more time to develop and make that fight more interesting than the first one was. And Sergio Pettis, super young guy, got a great, bright future in the sport, better fighter than his brother is, despite the fact that his brother was lightweight champion. I think this is straightforward. Cejudo's going to be able to wrestle Pettis. He's going to be able to do that, and I think he doesn't even need to. He's going to be able to win on the feet, too. I think he just wins in every phase. I wouldn't be completely astonished if Sergio Pettis won, just because he's been improving at such a rapid clip, but I'd be fairly well shocked. Cejudo just checks all the boxes here. Give me Henry Cejudo by decision.
Yeah, I like Henry Cejudo here quite a bit. It's funny just because that fight was canceled during fight week, and we were like 1 or 2 days out from doing before the battle for 211. I was pretty much ready to pick Pettis. For some odd reason, I thought he was a bit a bit sharper on the feet than Cejudo, but clearly I was wrong. Cejudo has improved even since I think like his, before the Wilson Hayes fight, which was just a Benavidez. I guess I thought he had two since then, but he looked good against Benavidez in defeat. A lot of people scored that fight for him. I think I might have had it a draw, but if you're going to either give it to Benavidez or Cejudo, it should have been Cejudo. He got crushed by Demetrius Johnson, but even now, I think that fight is closer. I mean, I still think Johnson wins handily, but I think that's closer than April 2016 that fight was. He also got a finish, and that is really fantastic for his career. He had won all of his UFC fights by decision, one even by split. That was against Formiga, but his last fight, he TKO'd Wilson Hayes in round number 2. His style is evolving, his game's evolving drastically. He's becoming a finisher. His striking is overall better and much more effective. And I'm sure his wrestling is as good as it's ever been. We don't see too much of his wrestling just because he's turned into quite the striker himself. So I don't really know where Pettis can win here because Pettis is a stand-up guy, and I think Cejudo is simply just better on the feet. And he's certainly better in the wrestling department. Pettis isn't known for his grappling. I think this is mostly a stand-up fight that Cejudo wins. I'm honestly tempted to go Cejudo by stoppage, but I think history would show that Cejudo is going to win by decision. I think maybe I'm just falling in love with that Wilson Hayes stoppage a bit too much, and maybe the fact that Pettis has been knocked out against Ryan Benoit, but Benoit's a power puncher. Cejudo only has one win in the UFC by TKO. So give me Cejudo by decision. Maybe if he finishes Pettis, then I'll start thinking Cejudo is going to be a long-term finisher going forward. But for now, Cejudo by decision, I think in a pretty clear fight. Next up, we got the UFC 218 co-main event. Alistair the Demolition Man. I don't think he goes by that, but we'll call him the Reem Alistair the Reem Overeem taking on Francis the Predator Ngannou, number 1 versus number 4 in the UFC's heavyweight division. Pivotal fight. Winner probably walks away with a title shot against Stipe Miocic unless Kane comes back and for whatever reason they book Stipe versus Kane, which probably could happen. Verdun wants a title shot, but coming off, just 1 win or 2 wins since his loss to Overeem, I'm not sure he even gets it over Overeem. And well, probably not, certainly not. And I don't think if Ngannou wins, I think Ngannou is given that title shot, well deserved, of course. Big fight, really could go either way. If we're going Overeem, it's going to be the decision probably, picking Ngannou apart. But if Ngannou walks away with the winner, and I know we said this earlier, it's going to be vicious. Overeem doesn't have much of a chin. Who walks away with the winner, Alistair Overeem or Francis Ngannou? Important fight in heavyweight division.
You keep saying Overeem's going to win a decision, and I think that's wrong. I think if someone's going to win a decision, it's going to be Overeem. I think Overeem has a very good chance of knocking out Francis Ngannou here.
Well, he does because it's heavyweight and anybody can knock out anybody. But I think if you were to say what's more,
Alistair Overeem, are you kidding? Do you forget who he is?
No, I certainly know.
He's the most accomplished kickboxer in the division.
Oh, I know.
By far the most accomplished striker, probably in the history of the division.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I know.
Still a wildly plus athlete for heavyweight, still hits super hard, still does really stupidly ridiculous athletic things like hitting a jumping front kick into a left hook combination. Like, I think he can absolutely knock out Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou is still very young in his career. I am sorely tempted to take Overeem in this fight. Because he can win a point decision. He can knock out Ngannou. If he works his wrestling game, we haven't seen Ngannou really have to defend a ton of takedowns on his career because he's been so quick with his finishes. There's just so many opportunities that Alistair Overeem here has. The big equalizer is that Francis Ngannou looks like the next big thing, the next champion in the division. Really great athlete, raw physicality that exceeds Overeem's, and he's young and doesn't have the durability issues that Overeem now has at this point. It's a tough fight for me to call. I think I think Overeem is going to give Ngannou problems early, because I think Overeem, I just think his depth of skill, his layered offense and defense is going to make Francis Ngannou have to pause, have to hesitate a little bit more. If Overeem looks for takedowns too, I think that's a huge benefit for him. I don't know if he's going to, though. He hasn't shot a lot of those recently, despite the fact that really he was first and foremost a great grappler and still is. Um, I think Overeem has all the tools to win this fight. It's just whether he implements them and whether he can walk the tightrope that is the danger of Francis Ngannou's punching power, and his kind of depleted chin. Uh, it's a real tough one for me to call, man. I am super, super tempted by Overeem here. The one thing that is sticking in my head is that these are fighters on different career paths. You know, one's going up, the other one's coming down, and this might be the nexus point where Ngannou.
Overeem, he's barely going down. Honestly, I know in general, like he's
the only reason he's not going down is because heavyweight is just a fucking garbage ass division.
And but so, technically, he's also still a very good fighter. So
he is. I mean, that's the thing. Like the reason heavyweights are the heavyweights are still around that have been there for a decade is that all of these guys have skill, and there's just not a bunch of young breed of skilled people coming up. So Mark Hunt can be 50, but he's still got way more talent than like everybody else that's fucking fighting in the division. I think Overeem lost to Fabricio Verdum in his last bout. I thought he did hurt. That's the thing. He hurt Stipe Miocic. And if he hadn't gone for a guillotine, which I don't think was necessarily the wrong decision, but if instead he had just tried to punch out Stipe Miocic, he might be your UFC champion at this point. In the end, because I have literally picked chalk, I've picked favorites the whole way through, and I don't want to do that because that's a little boring. And I just think Alistair Overeem has a good chance here. Francis Ngannou's untested because that's how heavyweight MMA works. You don't have to get tested at this point to rise to the top. I think maybe this is a little too much too soon for him, just as far as skill. I will in no way be surprised if he throws a punch, knocks out Alistair Overeem. Because the one thing that I haven't mentioned that I actually respect a lot about Francis Ngannou's game, extremely patient. He has a champion's patience in there. He does not come out there just like looking to wing shots. He is very measured, looks like a much more experienced fighter than he is. And so that I think that could be a big boon to him here. That he might not be completely frazzled when Overeem is having success early and just waits for his opportunity. But I'm going to err on the side of the more experienced guy, the guy who's declining but not massively declining, and just has more tools here. Until I see Francis Ngannou beat one of the top 4 or 5 guys, I'm going to err on the side of Alistair Overeem. But if he comes out and knocks out Alistair Overeem, I'm going to pick Francis Ngannou to beat Stipe Miocic when they fight. I'm just going to throw that out right now. So give me Alistair Overeem for a lot of reasons. Won't be at all surprised if he loses. I am actually going to take Alistair Overeem by KO. I think he could win a decision, but I'm just going to say that he hurts him and then gets the finish because I think that's more fun and interesting to say. So Alistair Overeem for my underdog pick of the card.
I would assume if this was Junior Dos Santos and not Overeem, you would be going the other way.
Yeah. In many respects, honestly, a similar fight. Just because of like who
Dos Santos doesn't have nearly the amount of tools on the feet that Overeem does, though.
No, he doesn't. But I think Dos Santos' defense is a little worse. Is part of the reason that I think I would go the opposite end on this as well.
Overeem has very good defense, or else he'd be on a 5-fight losing skid all by knockout.
Exactly. Overeem's chin is definitely not what it was, but he still has a fairly good defense. Junior Dos Santos has never really had that. More to the point, Junior Dos Santos' footwork has always been a really big problem. He backs straight up to the fence when he's pressured, and I think Ngannou could take advantage of that, back him up, and then bomb on him. Whereas Alistair,
kind of like Stipe in
exactly, kind of like every loss Junior Dos Santos has had has been that happening to him. I think Ngannou could replicate that, whereas he's not going to be able to walk Alistair Overeem down. Alistair Overeem is just a little more technical, a little more skilled. So I would pick Ngannou. But again, I'd be a little bit reticent just because it's a big leap up in competition from the very old, very fragile Andrei Arlovski and the Anthony Hamilton's and Bohan Mihailovic's of the world to Alistair Overeem Jr. dos Santos.
Yeah, it's a scary jump. It really is. Jump.
That's just heavyweight MMA though. Like you go from fighting guys that are bad. If you're good, you go from fighting guys that are pretty much bad to like, hey, this guy is really experienced and good, and sink or swim, buddy. See what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a scary big jump. You going
so you get to arbitrate because Wes had Ngannou. I'm taking Overeem. You're the decider here.
Yes, either you or Wes is going to be out on an island all by your lonesome. So really big jump, and that could just be it right there. It's like he's not ready for a number one heavyweight for the best striker in the division, for the guy that has some of the best defense, who is overall one of the better heavyweights in the world right now, even at his age of 38, 39, whatever he is, maybe even 40. But despite Overeem's fantastic defense, I think Ngannou might just be able to walk right through it. And I like what you said about his fight IQ. He doesn't fight like he's 10-1, like he hasn't been in this game for just a few years. Like he fights like almost a veteran, maybe not quite. Like you can still sort of tell that he's not raw, but like inexperienced in a way. But if you just show someone that Francis Ngannou fight, and anyone that knows something about MMA, but for whatever reason has no idea who this guy is, they'd probably think he's fought for a little while. So that helps. Like he picks his shots, but he's still so dangerous, and he still walks his opponents down and pressures them where they just wilt under his power and pressure for the most part. But it's not like he goes in there swinging for the fences. If something lands. Otherwise, I'm probably going to get clipped and knocked out. Like he's not a crazy fighter. It just sort of, we almost think he is because he's like, it's like knockout win, knockout win, knockout win, knockout win. He's just actually really talented at stalking his prey for the most part. Very interesting matchup against Overeem because Overeem is so technical on the feet. His defense fantastic. Even though some people don't like it, the whole running thing, it works. It's like, do what you got to do. That's sort of how I look at that. Literally like turning your back to your opponent. It kind of looks bad, I'm not going to lie, but hey, this is fighting. Do what you got to do. It works. And so it's effective, or it's not effective, but he gets out of the way. That's really all that matters at the end of the day. The defense could, this is Ngannou. The thing with the step up is that Ngannou has never fought someone with this high level of defense. Overeem has adapted a new style in the sense that he can't go out there being, and just throw crazy and be wild, because he's going to get clipped and knocked out with a jab or some sort of punch, because he doesn't have a chin. So he's adopted a style basically where he's sort of, going for the point shots. And if he lands a cool knockout, great, but he stays back. He runs a little bit, covers up quite a bit. He stays back, doesn't get inside the distance too much. But it's not always the most visibly appealing before knockout, but it is effective, and it's ultimately gotten him from number 11 in the world when he's been losing to Ben Rothwell and such to number 1, just below the champion. The pick here is tough, close fight. I'm going to go Francis Ngannou. I think this guy's the real deal. I think this guy's the next UFC heavyweight champion. I think it's so hard to tell, but I wouldn't be shocked if this guy's at the top for a long time. He's young, he's fresh, he's new, and he's just goddamn vicious. He's scary. He's really, really scary. This ultimately comes down to he hits hard, really hard. He's accurate, and he closes the distance and pressures you very well. And I don't care how good Overeem's defenses. I think Ngannou can sort of neutralize that. I think he ends up getting inside and clipping Overeem. I just think the odds are way too high for Ngannou landing anything of note. And if he does, Overeem is going night-night. And kind of it pains me to say that, because Overeem, I don't know if you know that, but he sort of is the fighter that got me into the sport. But I think he's going to have a tough fight this weekend. Give me Francis Ngannou by knockout in round number 2. We are here. Last fight. We've gone through, 24, 25, in and around there. A lot of fights tonight. This is the last one. The UFC Featherweight Championship is on the line. Max Blessed Holloway taking on I almost said Jose Shorty Torres. Jose Aldo Jr., the former UFC Featherweight Champion. He was the champ. He lost it by third round knockout to Holloway in June of this year, UFC 212 in Brazil. This one's happening down in the States, of course, in Detroit. Interesting matchup considering the fact that Aldo was up going into that third round in which he was knocked out. Holloway was down. Maybe not a come from behind victory just because there was still a lot of time left, but he was down and he got the win. So it could be closer than some people, maybe even myself, are thinking. Who do you like? Who walks away with the gold, Max Holloway or Jose Aldo?
Max Holloway. We saw this fight not that long ago. I'll try and keep this as brief as I can. A couple of points to be made. Jose Aldo was winning. I thought he won the first 2 rounds. I thought he looked the same as he's always looked, which is the best technical fighter MMA's ever seen. I know Demetrius Johnson gets a lot of credit for being the best technical fighter ever. That's wrong. Jose Aldo is the best technical fighter MMA's ever seen, and I think that it's not even particularly close, really, as far as the breadth of techniques he has. I mean, there are people better than him in phases. John Jones is the best clinch fighter MMA's ever had, But when you put it all together, Jose Aldo, by far the best defensive fighter, by far the best defensive fighter MMA's ever had. His technique offensively is astounding. He is a great grappler. He does so many things well. That's why he was on top and unbeaten for a decade. And his downfall has been twofold at this point. One, he's old. He's not old in years, but he's old in fight game. He's old in wear and tear. He's been through hard shots. I think the Chad Mendes fight actually took a shitload out of him, and we did not kind of understand at the point in time. I don't think Conor McGregor is not a one-hitter quitter. That's a huge misconception that has been passed around based almost purely off the Aldo fight. Like the
Alvarez fight.
Well,
that's how he finishes fights.
Exactly. He has colded 2 people in his career. Jose Aldo's one, and the other one was in Cage Warriors. He has power, no mistaking that. But the whole narrative that he was going to just land one shot and change the fight against Floyd Mayweather was always stupid, because that's not what he does. He hits people and hurts them. He's a very good finisher. And once he has somebody hurt, he's very good at finding that same punch over again. The Aldo fight, I don't think Conor McGregor took Aldo's chin. I think Aldo's chin had already been cracked by Chad Mendes by just the years of attrition. The fact that he's a Nova União fighter, and that camp has historically been been a gym battle place. They do a lot of hard sparring and stuff, and all of the mileage caught up with him, and that coalesced to the point where McGregor landed the best punch of his life. He does hit very hard. Not trying to denigrate Conor McGregor for any of you fans out there, but it all coalesced in a way that Aldo got slept. And now his chin is cracked, and that's the problem here. I think Holloway knew that he would probably lose early. He's not a particularly fast starter. Jose Aldo is more technically skilled than him, and it showed early. But eventually, Max Holloway figured out enough things about how to dictate the distance on Jose Aldo, and mostly what he figured out is, I just need to throw a lot. Like I can't, if I try and play a range shot for shot game, I'm going to lose. But my strengths are my volume over Jose Aldo. And if I throw a lot, eventually, he'll be able to block, parry, slip the first punch, the second punch, the third strike. But when you start really putting 4, 5, 6, Jose Aldo's defense, which is the best that's ever been in MMA, there's only so much that you can defend against before having to get out of there, reset, throw offense back that counters. And Holloway ended up doing that, and then he had a lot of success countering Aldo's counters. He figured out what Aldo was doing to him, and then his 4th and 5th strike were, okay, I'm going to throw 2, Aldo's going to counter with this, and then I'm going to come back over. And that's how he ended up buzzing him in the 3rd, getting the finish there. And I don't see how that changes here, because it's just unlikely to. The one thing I will say is Jose Aldo has a way to win this fight. And I don't think he's going to, because I don't think that he is going to make. I think that while he is one of the best fighters ever, in my opinion, I think I have him as like the 3rd or 4th best fighter of all time. I just think that he's that good. If he's going to win, he has to go back to WEC Aldo. And I don't know that he is mentally capable of doing that, because to do that would be a concession that he's not the fighter he was, that he is physically compromised. And there are different levels of greatness, and it takes a different kind of fighter to recognize that they need to fundamentally change something about the way they're approaching the game, especially when that approach has been so successful for them for over a fucking decade. And he basically has to fight a completely different game plan than he has fought in years. He cannot stay on the outside with Max Holloway, because eventually he can do that early, but eventually Max Holloway is going to figure it out and overload his defensive computer, and then the shots are going to kill him. He has to, one, leg kick. He hasn't been leg kicking for decades at this point. He has some of the best in the game. He stripped his offense down to a jab and a left hand, which is and beat world champions with that for years, which is wild. He has to open up his offensive game more. He has to leg kick. He has to shoot takedowns. He has to pressure more. He has to not try and sit back. He needs to fundamentally change who he is and just be a much more aggressive fighter, because he can't win over 5 rounds. He has to hurt Holloway early. He has to take some of the gas tank out early. He has to put doubt in Max Holloway early. And he can do that. He's Jose Aldo. He has an incredible amount of offensive capability and horsepower under the hood. He hasn't gone to that in such a long time. I don't know that he can anymore. I just don't know that he's got the switch to flip. And I don't know that he's going to be able to sit down. Like, maybe he can, because his run as of late has not been great. 2 stoppage losses, despite having, not lost in a decade before that. So maybe that's enough for him to sit down and go, you know what, my chin's not there anymore. It's still not bad. It's not awful, but it's not a thing that I can rely on as a safety net. I need to do something different here. And if he does that, it'll be a much more interesting fight. I think that's probably gone, and I think that that's unlikely that we'll see that, and instead we'll see a quicker version of their first fight. Aldo wins the first round. Holloway opens up much more aggressively in the second round. At some point, he's going to land something on Aldo's chin, and that's going to be the end of the ball game. I'm predicting a second round KO for Max Holloway. And the one last thing I will say about this, because I don't think this gets mentioned enough when we talk about long-term champions, is Jose Aldo, because of who Jose Aldo was and who Demetrius Johnson was and who Anderson Silva was and who George St. Pierre was, the guys who ended up unseating those guys, the ones who have been unseated, or, in GSP's case, the guy who many people thought beat him and Johnny Hendricks, these are people who have been preparing to fight that fighter for their entire life or for most of their career. Chris Weidman as a middleweight knew that Anderson Silva's the goal, and Max Holloway as a featherweight knew that Jose Aldo's the goal, and his game plan, his style kind of evolves in that it's kryptonite. It's a bad stylistic matchup for Aldo, because when you have the target on you that long, then people are going to shoot at the target and they're going to develop games. And so I think Max Holloway is a kind of a rough stylistic matchup for him, even at his peak, though I do think Aldo would be skilled enough to win that fight. I still think Holloway's volume and his durability would create real problems for Aldo anyway, just because of the fact that Aldo was the best fighter in the world for 10 years. And Holloway knew that and built his whole game about beating that. So that's the last thing I'll say on it. I would love Aldo to win. One of my absolute favorite fighters of all time. I think at worst the 4th best fighter in the history of the world. This loss, the McGregor loss, do nothing to change that. If he loses to Holloway again, that doesn't stop the fact that he was the best featherweight that we've ever seen in the history of the sport, and one of the 5 best fighters that we've ever seen, and the most technical fighter and the best defensive fighter that we've ever seen in the history of MMA. He should get lauded for all these accomplishments. He's a future Hall of Famer. I hope he moves to lightweight. I think he's got a lot of really fun fights at lightweight, and personally, I would absolutely love to see a fight between him and Khabib. I think that's a stylistic one. Like, that's an incredible fight to me, and that's what I hope happens next. Probably won't, but that's all I got to say. Give me Max Holloway, TKO, KO, round 2.
Okay. I don't want to go as long as you did. I don't have as much to say. My pick is kind of straightforward, and it's ultimately and still Max Holloway. I picked him in the first fight. And although the only, the only thing that would make me like persuade me or you know, try to persuade me going the other way would be the fact that Aldo won the first 2 rounds. But the thing with that is that Holloway just was able to find his groove. And once he did that, it was basically the beginning of the end for Jose Aldo. Holloway, typically a slow starter. Aldo, you know, is always good, you know, round 1, round 5, but probably his best rounds are probably early. I think that definitely played into the fact that Aldo was beating him before getting knocked out pretty viciously, followed up by some ground and pound. Yeah, I just, you know, the fact that Aldo was winning isn't enough of a reason to change my pick. I think his chin is mostly gone. I think he, you know, has a bit of a chin, but it's certainly not what it once was. I think you're bang on with the fact that Aldo needs to do more as far as techniques go on the feet, tools on the two bags. He needs to bring those out again. The leg kicks, especially, just different thing, uppercuts, maybe even with Holloway being the bigger guy. But then also plays into this. Holloway's the bigger guy. I want to say the reach advantage. Oh no, Aldo does. Yeah, I keep forgetting that. But yeah, Holloway uses his size really well. He's not the more technical striker, but his volume takes over the trumps that basically. 5.79 strikes landed per minute on average to Aldo's 3.32. Pretty big, advantage. Holloway there, of course. Holloway's younger. He's fresher. He has killer instinct. Once he has you hurt, good luck. Aldo just isn't who he once was. I mean, could Aldo win? Sure. Is he still a very, very good fighter? Did he just beat Frankie Edgar in, a year and a half ago? Yeah. But these knockout losses are taking a toll on him. He is not what he once was, and I think you're right about the Chad Mendes fight being the big one. Conor McGregor didn't change Jose Aldo because there's actually a good chance, like, if we're right and like that Mendes fight didn't happen, there's a good chance that McGregor punch doesn't put Aldo to sleep. I know, it was a very hard shot, but
I think a lot of things coalesced. And McGregor could have just hurt him and then finished him right there. I'm not taking that away. McGregor probably wins that fight in the same way that Max Holloway is a kind of a bad style matchup. McGregor also is a bad style matchup for Aldo in many ways. I'm not saying that McGregor wouldn't have won the fight. I'm saying that McGregor doesn't sleep people, and he colded Aldo.
McGregor. Mendes fight happen or not happen, all those chin there or not, McGregor would have found a way. But yeah, I think you're onto something about if Mendes take that out of the equation, say it never happened. I think Aldo maybe doesn't get deaded completely, but I do think he does fall yet again here. I don't think he comes up victorious. Max Holloway does what he did in the first round. It's tough to say whether or not he does it quicker. I think your logic there makes sense. My gut feeling is it actually goes maybe a tad longer. I'll go third round. I'll go third round again. I think it'll be exact same result at the end of the day. Max Holloway TKO in round number 3. I think there's actually a good chance Aldo wins the first round, but I think Holloway will know to turn up the pace come the second round because he'll remember, hey, Aldo was winning. Can't let that happen. I think he turns the pace up in the second round. Doesn't finish him, but starts to appoint him a little bit with his volume, starts throwing more mixes in, some elbows or whatever. Definitely gets the Brazilian's attention, and then I think in the third round is when it's all said and done. Max Holloway tags him, and that's really all it will take. Aldo can be winning, and then he'll just get cracked, and that'll be that. So Max Holloway, and still featherweight champion in the UFC, third round TKO. That is my pick. Let us move on very quickly. I want to get out of here. DraftKings bonuses, underdog pick of the week, and I think that's everything. I'll just let you go and with your bonuses and your underdog, then we'll do DraftKings after. But you got bonuses and your underdog pick of the week.
You do yours first. I always go first for everything.
All right. Performance bonuses. This is a tough one with so many great fights, but Fight night, gonna go Alvarez Gaethje. I know I'm confident in Gaethje. I think he'll kind of dominate Alvarez for the most part, but like I still think what I said about Alvarez still coming forward, perhaps having that dog brought out of him by Gaethje, I think that makes it intriguing enough for a while it lasts. Almost like the Johnson fight, in a way, minus some of Johnson's offense. So yeah, Alvarez Gaethje is my fight tonight. Performances. Gaethje has a good chance for 100K, I think. Holloway, no, I hate to give it to Holloway because he doesn't really need the money. If even if he wins, knocks Aldo out. But he'll probably get it. So I would rather see someone like Oliveira get it, Charles Oliveira, that is. Hell, even Alex Oliveira. But I'll go Holloway and Nagano. Keep things boring.
Holloway and Nagano?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Underdog?
Oh, underdog. I guess Watterson's the only underdog I picked.
You had Courtney Casey as well.
I'm gonna go Courtney Casey.
I like it. That makes it fun. So everybody's doing different shit. I always like it when everyone's doing different shit. My fight of the night, I think Gaethje Alvarez makes a lot of sense. Good chance that's fight of the year. Because I think Gaethje is going to beat Alvarez up pretty hard. Instead, I'm going to pick Max Holloway, Jose Aldo. If I'm wrong about it being second round TKO KO for Max, their last fight, one fight of the night, I think this fight will look pretty similar to that. It didn't happen all that long ago. Especially if Aldo does decide to mix things up, then this fight definitely gets way more interesting, way quicker. So give me the main event. I always like to pick those anyway. My performances, Justin Gaethje, his last fight, he got both performance and a fight of the night. So I think that that's very, very fair. The rest of it, it's pretty tough for me, but I am going to pick Dominic Reyes. His last fight, 30-second KO. Wes is picking another 45-second KO. That's the type of shit that gets you a performance bonus in my book. So give me Dominic Reyes knocking out Jeremy Kimball with alacrity. My underdog pick, the only one I picked on the card, the Reem, Alistair Overeem, coming through against Francis Ngannou. So we can move on to DraftKings. I'll just finish it out so we can get this done with the quickness. My DraftKings team always have one of the main event guys in your squad. We're all picking Max Holloway. There's a good reason why. In case you were wondering, Max Holloway's last performance against Jose Aldo, where he lost 2 rounds and then finished him, still earned 104 DraftKings points. Seems like for 9,300, you're probably going to get that same amount of points or better. So Max Holloway's on my squad. Justin Gaethje, his last performance was 122 points on DraftKings. Definitely joining my squad. It was another tough event because they're like, for me especially, I picked all chalk except for Alistair Overeem. So because of that, I had to put a couple underdogs that I didn't pick. One of those I did pick, Alistair Overeem. So Alistair Overeem joins my squad. $7,100 too. I think that we talked about it. Overeem has a lot of ways to win. I think even if you think Ngannou's going to win, the same kind of justification that West did for picking Jose Aldo, I think Overeem has a much better chance to win than Aldo does, and he's only $200 more expensive than Aldo is. So Overeem's on my squad regardless, but definitely since I'm picking him. My other 3, David Tamer, like I said, I'm super high on David Tamer. I think he's going to beat Drakkar Klose pretty convincingly, and all 3 of his fights have been big points earners. His lowest was his last one. That was still 85 points, only $8,400. Think that's totally worth a bet, worth $1, worth $1. Tisha Torres, again, I think she just handles Michelle Waterson. I also think that this might be one of those fights where Tisha Torres is pretty young in the game and could really start making the strides to be who she's going to be forever. And Michelle Waterston's been around the block, and I think that the physicality difference here, I think Tisha Torres going to put up points. She's $8,600, which I don't feel great about, but I'm still taking her. And then the last one, I have to have one more underdog to make the money work because I'm picking so many favorites, and there's nobody that's even really a cheap favorite on the card. Charles Oliveira. We talked about it. You are picking Charles Oliveira. He's somehow he's not an underdog. He's an underdog or even money on the books. But Paul Felder cost $8,500 and Charles Oliveira cost $7,700. Not really sure why. It's a pretty close coin flip fight. if he gets it done, I'll look like a genius. If not, I don't feel that bad about it. Give me Charles Oliveira to round out my team. Still have a few shekels left, but there's just no way for me to kind of maximize my squad beyond that. So that's my squad. What about you, Nikolai? Bring us home.
This is interesting. So we have 3 similar.
Okay, I share 2 with Wes. I have Aldo and no, I don't. I share Gaethje with Wes. That's the only one I share with Wes.
So we share Gaethje, David Tamer, and Charles Oliveira.
Wait, we share who?
Oliveira, Tamer, and Gaethje.
Oliveira, Tamer. Oh, I forgot I have Tamer. Yeah. Oliveira, Tamer, and Gaethje. Okay.
And then the last 3, interestingly, 2 of them we have opposite fighters, and even more so interestingly, although you're picking you're picking both of them to win, but I'm picking 1-1, and I think that's what's gonna happen. I got Aldo, you got Holloway, and I got Ngannou, you got Overeem.
Yeah, I sort of assumed that would be a thing that you would do.
So I like Holloway and Ngannou. You like both
like
Holloway and Overeem. So going by what your predictions, your team's the better team.
Who's your 6th?
My 6 versus your Tisha Torres is Henry Cejudo.
Cejudo, it's a pretty good squad you got there, buddy.
So yeah, we both got good ones because this, I think. Well, I'm not picking Torres, but if she wins, I won't be surprised at all. I'm confident in Cejudo, as you are, as everyone is. And so I think there's a good chance Torres and Cejudo racks up a similar amount of points. Going by my predictions, probably not. But and then I think Holloway and Ngannou can probably get like 100 each, and Aldo and Overeem probably, not too many. But I think
it's come down to the Ngannou Overeem fight between us. I think
probably like my thinking here is that I think Aldo has a better chance of beating Holloway than. It's tough because Overeem and Ngannou is heavyweight, anything can happen. But I think I give Aldo a better chance than Overeem, honestly.
I definitely
not even, maybe not, but I think Aldo takes it further. Like I think Overeem gets starched in this fight and doesn't rack up that many points. Where at least Aldo, I think, can land a few. Like he'll win a round or 2, probably.
Well, so get you points. His last, so I looked into it because I thought like, well, maybe I've got a point. Maybe he's so cheap he's worth points. I'm extremely confident that Max Holloway beats Jose Aldo is the thing. And look, you could be right. If you're very confident Francis Ngannou beats Overeem, then I think that you're absolutely justified. But he only got 28 points against Holloway the last time, and
so that's the thing. Like I'd rather take Aldo over Overeem because I think Aldo probably gets like 20, 25, maybe. I think Overeem might be lucky to get over 10.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I see your thinking, and that's why I'm saying like it comes down to the Overeem fight. If I'm right in my Overeem prediction, then I'm probably going to win this DraftKings. Is basically how this works out.
But it also comes down to Torres. If she wins and Cejudo wins,
I have no doubt that Torres is going to win.
We'll see.
Well, I have no because we share Tamer, Oliveira, and Gaethje. So you versus me is your Aldo Ngannou Cejudo versus my Torres, Holloway, and Overeem. I think Holloway and Cejudo at Holloway and Cejudo are even basically.
Sure. I think Holloway's higher than Cejudo, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's accurate as well. And so then it's like your Aldo and Ngannou versus my Torres and Overeem. So I think Torres and
I really think Aldo and Ngannou. I think Torres
comes down to the Overeem and Ngannou fight.
I think Torres, if she wins, is only going to get like 70, and I think Overeem, if he loses, is going to get like 10. So you're 80, and I got Ngannou over 100, Aldo like 20. So. I mean, it's all so stupid that we're even like saying this because like we all think different things, but
yeah, but like so it's an interesting thing to consider. So like
it is interesting when we share fighters and then have fighters that are fighting each other.
My thing is Cejudo's average point score is like 70. Now that's a little bit skewed because he got so very few against Johnson. He only got 8 points, and then he also lost to Benavidez. When he stopped Wilson Hayes, he got a shitload of points. If he doesn't stop Sergio Pettis, he's likely to end up with like somewhere in the 70 to 80 point range. Maybe more if he goes a super wrestling heavy game plan. We haven't seen him do that a lot though. So we're talking about your Cejudo is going to get 70, 80 points. Ngannou's basically a boom bust. Like if Ngannou gets a knockout early, he's going to have 90 to 100 points. If he doesn't, he's not. And then Aldo's likely to get you 20 to 30 points. So that's somewhere between 200, like 1 to 200 points for those three between you. Max is going like, what did Max score against Aldo the first time? Let me look at that. He got 116 points. So let's say 105 points. Like Max is going to do somewhere in the 3 digits of points for me. Overeem going to do a boom bust. He's going to do 10 or a million. He's that same 100 flex. And then Tisha Torres, what was her win? What's her average point score? Like 71 is her average thing. Her wins, she's averaging about 80 points. So it really is just how the Overeem and Ngannou fight breaks down is really what it is. Torres and Cejudo are both likely to get similar point totals, and then it's just whether Overeem or Ngannou wins.
Pretty much.
So I like my squad.
And I mean, if Aldo pulls off the upset, then
then that's just enormous. But I won't even give a shit.
Unless Torres finishes Waterson in round 1 and Cejudo loses, and
I like your team better than Wes's.
What is Wes's?
Aldo, Gaethje, Herrig, Ngannou, Waterson, Reyes. I think Reyes is going to get a lot of points for, so that's good. But Ngannou's boom or bust. I think Herrig. That's a close fight. Herrig could get a lot of points. Still a really close fight with Courtney Casey.
Even if she wins, it's gonna be like 65, maybe.
Yeah,
so I don't.
Yeah, she can get. I think she's low upside, but she doesn't cost a lot, which makes sense. Waterson, I think, like I said, I feel really confident that Waterson's going to lose, so I think that's not a good inclusion. Similar with Aldo, though I understand the reasoning for having him on his squad.
The thing with Aldo for me is that he's 6,900. There's value. I don't see him winning. I'm confident in that. Very confident. But at 6,900, if I can put on big favorites like Cejudo, like Gaethje, even Ngannou as well. I was able to feel like I am picking 3 of my fighters by stoppage for sure. Cejudo has a chance, and even if he doesn't, I think 3 of my guys will get for sure over 100. I think Tamer has a good chance to get, 70 to 80. Cejudo 70, 80. Aldo a bit of a bust, but probably around 20. I think, again, we could talk about this all night, really, but it comes down to the co-main event.
Yeah, it really does. If I'm right, I'm gonna win. If you're right, you're gonna win. I think that's exactly how this breaks down. So I'm excited. I think Wes is out, but I've been wrong before. I'm
interested to see what would happen if Overeem and Aldo win.
If Overeem and Aldo win, then I don't know. It'll be that. That's who cares. We got to end. I still have work to do, and I have place to be at 8 a.m. I got to be somewhere in 6 hours, and I still got to do work tonight.
Yeah, so. I got to write an article too.
Yeah, so we got to.
I don't have to, but I said at 11:45 Eastern. Yeah, I can grab that article in an hour when I'm done the podcast.
My name is Jed Meshew. You can find my writing at MMAfighting.com. It's there every day. It's going to be there in about 6 hours, assuming I can ever leave this fucking podcast. You can also follow me on Twitter at JedKMeshew. Give me a follow. I am just delightful on there. I keep you up to date with all of my brilliant takes on MMA, which are better than most everybody else's because everybody else seems to be really stupid about this fucking sport, and I'm a genius. So give me a follow there. Go check out my writing words professionally for the #1 site of MMA in the entire widest of worlds. It's been a delight, Nicholas. Tell the people where they can find you so we can get the fuck out of here.
We're coming on 3 hours. You guys can find me on Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA. You can find my writing over at bloodyelbow.com. You can find all of my other podcasts, The MMA Circus, hosted with Andrew Lawrence, and Beyond Combat. I host it by my lonesome. We had Beyond Combat and the MMA Circus both this week. The MMA Circus, we talked about this card. Andrew gave me shit for even bringing up the TUF finale. Don't blame him. Talked a little Tai-Han Bang, getting put in jail. Talked a little Ben Askren. Fun show. Andrew didn't think so. He said I was terrible that week or that Tuesday. Beyond Combat, I had on MMA fighter based out of Team Alpha Male, Adam Corrigan. On the side, he does a little stand-up comedy. It was fun to talk to Adam Corrigan about his journey as a comedian. So check that out. That's on his YouTube channel. Give this video a thumbs up. You see it down there. Never gonna remember, just you know where it is. Click it, thumbs up. Preferably not a thumbs down, although if you hate the show, I mean, don't lie. Maybe lie. It's appreciated. Comment, rate us, review us, subscribe. As I said, anything you do, check out everything on this YouTube channel. We appreciate it. Enjoy the fights tomorrow night. I guess technically tonight, Saturday night with Aldo, Holloway. And we are out of here. Good night.
Enjoy the Bellator tomorrow night. And you know what? Check out MMAfighting.com, where I'll be doing play-by-play and live results.
Bloody elbows is better. Bye.
Love you guys.